All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the CROA monthly meeting for September 27th at 6:34 this evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time and first start off with Debbie and Dave recognizing some of the volunteers we had for Hurricane Irma.
Thank you. Thanks, Chuck. We just wanted to give a special thanks to so many people that stepped forward to help bag sand and move porch furniture from people out of town and do various other things for Hurricane Irma. And I'm sure there's someone we have left out, so please give me a call if I've left you out and let me know, and we can certainly make that right. We just want to recognize those we know about, and there's always one or two people that are silently helping in the background, so please let me know if there's someone we've forgotten. First, I'd like to call up Heather, Chase, and Justin Robbins.
Do we clap now or do we wait?
I don't know what they did yet.
He's Roger.
He's right there.
Oh, you come here, Roger. I didn't even see you. Come on up, up. Yeah, and then you guys, if you can line up here and wait till everyone's been called up.
Oh my gosh, that is so sweet.
And then each of you have a card too. And just stand over here and face the camera. Thank you so much. These guys are at Celebration High School. And,
Stay right in front of me. I hate my pictures. Right in front of me. I don't want to be in it. Seriously.
The owners of Evolve Bike Shop, and they have always just stepped up for anything and everything. And thanks. You guys stay there. We're going to have some more people come up. Next, we would like the crew from Georgetown, who went above and beyond. These guys worked on their days off and helped clean up the rest of the town because we were a little overwhelmed. So we have Todd, their fearless leader. Cindy, Steve, and Will.
There's a shovel.
The shovels, yeah. You can scoop sugar or whatever. So turn around and face Tim if you would. And Annika's still on a plane, right? Thanks, you guys. You go in over there. Thank you. And if you're less tall, you can scooch you in the front. We'll have more people. Rich and Jeannie Vandermeer. Thank you.
And a shovel.
I can't even remember what Jeannie called about. And I'm like, can you go shovel some sand? And she just went right over and drug poor husband over. And thank you. Thank you. Next, we have someone very special who decided you guys might be hungry and brought 100 cupcakes, and I'm not sure what else, and couldn't even get to it to deliver it, so I'm not sure who assisted you in that delivery, but he is here. He's even here with his broken ribs, and so don't hug him, but Bradley Pace. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You don't get it, Bob. You don't get away.
Next, we have someone that also delivered food. You guys, I don't know if you ate any of this. You were so busy working, but Chick-fil-A has been a community partner that has been fabulous and done a lot of our events where we had meet and greets. And Jeannie Kotzel, if you could. Thank you. I would also like to thank Chick-fil-A for what is inside your envelope, which is breakfast and a lunch at Chick-fil-A. So, great job. And I think this poor guy called to ask me something, and again, went over with a friend, Kevin, Kirby, and Ethan. Zachary, if you can come over. But you get a shovel. It's really cute. Well, hey, we'd like to recognize them. Thank you. Thanks, sweetie. There you go. Yeah, was this from shoveling, or was that? Okay.
One more for you.
One more second. Mark Hayes, I believe you were helping in the mix. Where's Mark? Okay. Thank you. There you go. And I'll trade that out for something else. And we have someone also very special who, on her day off of being a teacher, decided she would go over and work all day. And I heard she was amazing. Kathy Whitmire. If you ever get a chance, or your kids do, to take her history class at the K through 8, you will never ever forget one day of it. Yeah, she can sit right here. Kathy, while you're up here, her son is in the, Kathy, help me out. Which infantry? Your son is in?
He is in Fort Lewis Infantry in the Army.
Fort Lewis Infantry in the Army, and Kathy just is one of these people, sees everything around town. The flag was torn up during the hurricane, and she said, "Can you help get that down?" Her son is going to repair it.
My son's favorite movie growing up was The Patriot. Sorry. My son's favorite movie growing up was The Patriot. Probably not the best movie to show like a toddler, but he loved it, and we ran copy after copy after copy. And when I put the picture on Facebook, and I said, this was September 11th after Irma, this is what was hanging at Stetson, this is what our flag looked like. And he instantly put back, he goes, "I need that flag. I want that flag." So he's going to repair the flag, and he's going to carry it with him in his travels wherever he gets to go with the infantry and the Army. So that's where this is going to be going, I guess. So this will look a lot better once CJ gets some free time, and he'll fix it up for everybody. So
Celebration will be we'll feature that in the article next month or the month after, so there'll be more on that also. Two other people are not here yet. Is there anyone here I missed? Please step up. That shoveled sand. I'd also like to thank Leonard Tem and David Anderson for coordinating the traffic, the craziness, we tried to obviously put it somewhere other than where it was, but that's county, and so it had to go there, so there was no other logical traffic flow we could do it. So anyway, if you guys want to scooch you somehow together, if anyone can get in front, kneel in front and do a group shot. Sure we can see you. Everybody smile big.
Ready? Okay.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
We all messed up. Where were we?
I'm going to go in there with you guys. Or go back one more time. Hold on 1 second. All right.
They're growing beards. Hurry up.
Sorry. Sorry, wrong button. You guys all left me on. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day and walk your dog.
See you later, man. All right.
Thanks for your work up there, Todd.
All right, thanks, Todd. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate that. You have our heartfelt thanks.
Volunteering. Thank you. Happy anniversary. Oh, it's our 20th anniversary. Robbins family.
This is where you're at?
It's okay. You can take her to Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, yeah.
All right, so let's resume with the homeowner comment period then. Tom Lloyd, you're first on the list, so please step up and give your name and address, please.
Yeah, Tom Lloyd, I live on 904 Beak Street, and last time we were here, I guess last week, we were talking about the sports field and the traffic situations and things like that, and I guess there's 50 allotted spots to park for the anybody attending the sports facilities. Is that correct?
Are you talking about the civic corridor?
The new one behind the library, yes.
that can change based on getting the easement from the golf course. That may
Okay.
change, so we'll have 80 spaces in front
Well,
of the golf
one of the
course alone.
things, there was stated, I think 50 was the number that was on there.
Okay.
What happens if, if we have 50 or if we don't have 50 and we got more cars than we have spaces for? We don't want to intrude into the dog park or the library. What's our contingency for that? Have we figured anything out about that yet?
Go ahead, Steve.
There's going to be a required amount of spaces by the county for, they have a set standard for parks and how many spaces need to be there. The contingency backup plan is to do 180-degree parking, I believe, along the Civic Corridor. The road will be built wide enough with the sidewalk far enough off of the road.
So they can park parallel on the sidewalk? Okay, because we don't want to intrude on the dog park or the library or
No,
anything like that.
and that's going to be so far down from the dog park and library anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Jeannie Capsule, you're next.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Kepsel, and I'm at 205 North Village Street. I had a few concerns about the ballpark fields that you guys are proposing to build. My son goes to Celebration High School, and he will be playing on the turf the second year in lacrosse, and he's a senior this year and has had experience on a real field and a turf field with marching band. And I guess my main concern as a parent with having a turf field is the heat. He's 17, and he just said that it could be 90 degrees outside. He plays in the spring and also marches in the summertime. It could be 90 degrees outside, and on the field it's 120. It feels like 120. So my concern is if you've got young children out there, is how are you going to offset those health issues of heat stroke or heat exhaustion, because a lot of kids were dropping at the school during band practice. And so that's my concern, is the heat-related issues. Another thing I heard through the grapevine, and I know it's just a grapevine, is there's no maintenance to the fields that you guys are proposing to build. Celebration High School, I'm part of the Athletic Boosters Club, they're having to put in a bank account $35,000 a year in order to maintain the field that they received from the district, from the county. So that's something that I guess, I know you guys have done your homework, and it's just my concern as a resident and as a parent where this type of money will come from. Because if you think about it, they have it in their account and they have to build it for the next 10 years. And according to the principal and also the Booster Club president, they have to have at least $400,000 to resurface and repair the field. And that's just something that I want you guys to be aware of. And my main concern is just the health issues that go along with the field of having the heat and dehydration of the young kids. And that's my main concern.
Let me clarify something. You said turf fields. I think you meant artificial turf fields.
Yeah, the artificial turf. That's what I was told, is that you guys were thinking about that.
We're talking about one artificial turf fields and two regular turf fields.
Okay.
So, Steve, I'm going to let you answer the heat problem on the field.
Sure. I think heat issues have been a concern with synthetic fields in many places, and part of that concern is the type of infill that is used to fill the turf fibers. They act as grass fibers, but they have to be filled to stand up, and then the fill actually acts as a cushion for fall zones. So if you use straight rubber crumb, it's much hotter. And I think some of the numbers that we received are 30 to 40 degrees hotter. But there are cooling agents available for the infill that will bring those down to maybe 20 degrees, 15 to 20 degrees hotter than a typical playing surface. So it is part of the research that we're looking into.
And please do, because I know like the Celebration High School does have a cooling system, and they have had some issues with the heat. And that's my main concern, is just to keeping the kids safe out there on the heat. And, you guys are proposing this for summertime activities, and I'm all for it, but I just want to make sure that, my son, he suffered, last year and over the summer because of the heat on the field. And I'll just throw it out here, is there any plans for a community center? I hear all the time that, people on Facebook and Back Porch and all that stuff, they want a community center. Is there something in the plans for that? Because, we could use it for senior citizens, for teens, for families. Where I came from before moving here to Celebration, we had a rec center that had indoor facilities for racquetball and basketball and just, group meetings. So, that's just something that I know you guys have already started one way, but it's just, if a community center is ever a possibility,
It's
I would
in the
love
master
that.
plans. It really is. And it's going to hopefully,
So that was my main concern, was the
hopefully it'll happen
heat.
sooner than later.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And please come visit us at Chick-fil-A. Thank you.
Thank you for your help. All right, Debbie Todd.
Hi, Debbie Todd, 905 Beak Street. And I have a master plan in my hands. I've studied the master plan, and I've walked every athletic field in Celebration. I don't know why you call those athletic fields. They are completely inadequate. They are not athletic fields. They were designed as park space. Okay? You know why they're not athletic fields? Because they are not regulation size. The civic corridor where you're planning on having athletic fields is great. And this plan is pretty good. But I think it's short-sighted. And I'll tell you why. I've done my research, folks. I grew up in physical education, recreation, and sports medicine. So, instead of just looking at Celebration, I've called all around Orlando, Champions Gate, and friends in the north. I know y'all are from the south. You don't like the north. But here's the deal. Champions Gate has a new facility down the street, 7 miles from here. They have 8 soccer fields. They have 136 parking spaces with 255 in an overflow lot. They have 38 vendor stalls where you can sit up and sell your wares and things like that. On October 6th through the 8th, they have a huge soccer tournament coming in, U through 19, so you can get down there and see how they play soccer on their fields. There's another facility in Orlando that has 2 fields. I'll call them fields. They have multiple sports there, youth, adult. Let's see, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different sports going on 2 surfaces. The key is that their surfaces are not underutilized. You underutilize stuff here in Celebration. You know why? There's no lights on those fields. I would suggest that if you want to maximize what you are doing here in Celebration, you need to light up those fields in the civic corridor, abandon the fields here in town because they are no good. You're going to be wasting your money on them, and utilize those fields out in the civic corridor. And if anybody wants to talk about it, I got lots more.
Debbie, let me say right now that we are going to put LED lighting out in the civic corridor.
Which is good, because that way you can utilize the courts like 8 in the morning or 7 in the morning if somebody wanted to play it till midnight. And that's, adults can play, kids can play. The only other thing is there's no regulation baseball field in town, so no fast pitch softball, no actual adult baseball.
Actually, in the future plans, we are going to renovate those fields beside us to add additional ball fields. The school fields. The school fields.
And is the school going to unlock the gates so that you can utilize the fields in there? I don't understand how come Osceola County locks that. When I was up in Indianapolis, we swam at the high school pool. You paid $20 and you got 20 visits to swim in the pool.
That's been a bone of contention for years, and we're currently working with the school right now for the facility use agreement on that.
Because this space here in front of this Little League field here, which they play soccer on it. I don't know how the little kids haven't sprained their ankles on that field, because that field is horrible. It's not graded properly. I would venture to say that if you're renting this stuff from the school system, why don't you suggest buying that and put your community center here close to the 851 building? Then you could have bleed over and back and forth. You could have offices there and things like that. I venture to say the county would be happy to sell off that property, since it's not really worth anything to them, because the school can't utilize it. It's not fenced in. You cannot have school property without a fence around it. And you don't have a trailer family here to unlock the gate so you can come and go at night, so you can't use those fields at night, which just seems short-sighted to me.
Steve, did you want to respond to that?
I was just going to say the school does have strict regulations for when kids are in school or kids are in school-related programming, that they can't just let the general public on school campus. So,
right, but when it's at night.
Yeah, it is part of the conversation, though. The contract, the facility usage agreement that we have with the school ends this year, so we've begun the process. It's all the way up the ladder right now. We're just waiting to get some word back from them. But we also asked for expanded use of the gymnasium. It's an underutilized gymnasium.
Yeah, because there's no full-size basketball court.
Right.
You know, kids from Indiana like basketball, but I can't play football. That's like going back before Title IX, which I was a Title IX athlete. I got it so girls could play full-size.
All right. Next up, Paul Kinzer.
Ask people to stay 3 minutes because we've got a lot of people.
No.
We don't? Just to check yours. Oh, okay. Thought everybody was going to speak.
Good evening. Paul Kinzer, 419 Celebration Avenue. 3 items this evening. First is an update, very, very brief. Second, a thank you. And third, a request. First of all, the Thriving in Place program currently serves about 90 members. We've aided over 130 since the inception, October 2015. None of that would have been possible without the Jones Room and Town Hall here, so that program's success is due in large part to this group right here. So we want to say thank you for the use of those facilities. Very, very beneficial. In fact, the attendance at the Thrive Lunch Bunch has grown to the point where the attendance outstrips the capacity of the Jones Room. We're fortunate that Steve has made some arrangements for us to move those activities here to Town Hall, which will salvage that function, which is critical to that group. So thank you, Steve. We appreciate that. Stetson Lifelong is having the largest enrollment of its 5-year history this fall. They registered nearly 250 Celebration residents, and a few from outside of Celebration also included in that group. Celebration Concert Series continues to grow with crowds that fill the Community Presbyterian Church at each event. There's a new initiative in the community called Arts Forward, and that promises to bring even more amazing intergenerational cultural and artistic activities to Celebration each year. And I mentioned the programs Thrive, Stetson Lifelong, Concert Series, Arts Forward, and more as just a few examples of the need that we have, as was expressed earlier, for additional community space and Celebration. As you guys know already, the Stetson building is for sale. It may be sold soon, and that will bring about the unavailability for Stetson classes and community activities. Changes at the Community Presbyterian Church are going to soon press the concert series if they haven't already, so we'll be looking for a place to expand. And these are only a few examples of the kinds of things that activities that take place currently in the community, all of which could, I think, respond and grow with a new community center. I'm asking that CROA consider this, to initiate a workshop or other appropriate vehicle that uses the talents of a community center master planning task force to begin to envision, to shape and to plan for a new, inspiring community center for use by all age groups. I'd be very happy to assist in any way possible. I'd appreciate your consideration on that request. Timing is everything.
Paul, if you have more, go ahead.
That's it for me, unless you have questions, Leonard. I appreciate your time tonight. I really would like to see some kind of vehicle be initiated that starts a group that represents the whole community to develop the plans for the
I,
center.
of course, spoke to you last week sometime.
Yes, sir. You did.
Or the week before, I forgot.
You did.
My weeks run together.
Yep.
And I've spoken with Jack, and I see a lot of nods across here about getting at least a committee together to explore some of the needs that you mentioned. And is it kind of, we can't vote tonight because it's not on the agenda, but I see a little bit of consensus that we should have a committee.
I think we need to go reach out to the community, get some volunteers, get some appointments, and maybe we appoint the committee at the October meeting.
I think that would probably be the best way to get the resolution put together, and then you can adopt it with some appointees.
We put together a resolution, just to explain it to everyone else, we put together a resolution to form a committee, and then we start appointing people. And I've heard you're the first volunteer, is that correct?
Yes, sir. You happy to volunteer? I'd just like to suggest that when this group comes together, that it probably should be facilitated by an independent individual, probably some kind of a professional facilitator, so that nobody is running this who has a special interest in anything, but that we truly lead it to get specific and accurate information from this community about the very best things that can go into a community center. Again, intergenerational input is absolutely mandatory. So I would suggest it can be a volunteer leader of the group to facilitate in particular. So I would just throw that out as a suggestion for the future. Thank you for recommending the committee. We appreciate it, and very excited about a community center.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, next on the list is Les Kipple.
Thank you all. I know a whole bunch of you guys. Quick question. How many of you folks here have your own houses? Raise your hand. How many of you, there we go. How many of you recycle? Recycle. How many of you seriously recycle?
More recycle than you garbage. There you go. Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, my recycling here. After trying to tape it and use it, our dear Celebration Sanitation has destroyed it. I called them up a week ago. I'd like to get a replacement. Sure, $14. I said, wait a second. You guys destroyed it. You broke it. It's your responsibility. Prove it to me. I said, would you like me to ride around and take pictures of your staff throwing the cans on the ground and breaking them? And the woman that I spoke to was nasty to the point that I said, don't you realize you're speaking to someone who would, just for the heck of it, go to small claims court over $14. It will end up costing you $500. Because if you lose, you have to pay all the fees. Well, you go do what you want. I have two Facebook pages. One is called Celebration Front Porch. The other is called Celebration Flea Market. I did a little survey. My recycling bin has been broken, smashed beyond repair by the sanitation workers. I called and asked for replacement. I was advised I had to pay for a new one. Your thoughts? 80% said they broke it, replacement should be free. 10%, don't they throw all the garbage in the same truck? 5%, we should pay for our own replacements to keep our costs in Celebration low. The last one, 5%, Recycling is a joke. At least half of Celebration doesn't recycle anyway. Couple of comments. One person, I moved there from Wellington, Florida, where they gave residents recycling bins for free. Hard to believe we have to pay for them here. Another person, mine was stolen. Another person, I had 2 garbage cans stolen, had to replace them. Another person, providing proper bins for trash and recycling is a cost of doing business that should be incurred by the company department that is providing the service. Wish we could all contract with the City of Orlando. They provide very nice big bins for free. So I'm just putting out to the board and to the residents why. And thank you.
All right, thank you. No, I'm not going to make any comments right now. This is something we have to deal with Celebration Sanitation. All right, so do we have any further comments from the homeowners? Anybody wants to speak? Going once, twice, 3 times. Okay. Steve, let's verify the meeting's been properly noticed.
Yes, it was.
Okay, and do we have a quorum?
Yes, you do.
Okay, if you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So with that, we'll call the meeting to order, and I'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda.
Can I ask that you move action item number 14 up with the other service areas action items?
Sure.
So it'd go up with,
We'll move 14 to 10, and then move 10, 11, 12, and 13 down.
If you just leave 14 where it is, I'm going to make the motion to approve 5 to 9 and 14.
Okay.
That will combine them all together. We discuss them at one time.
All right.
Do you have a comment? Okay. Hey, Jack, we do have a homeowner that does have a homeowner comment that missed it. So if we recognize another person.
All right, let's go back to homeowner comments then, please.
Hey, Armand Moda, 930 Postan Road. Me and a few other residents are here. We're just asking if we can get the pools open in another 3 months on Friday and Saturday till at least 10 o'clock. Because, you know, we like to get together, take the kids over there, let them burn off some energy. And this thing of closing at 8 o'clock, you know, and not even getting any warning, it just doesn't make sense for us, especially for Friday and Saturday.
Which pool were you at?
We were at the North Village pool last weekend, and then before we usually come to our Spring Park pool, and they just keep closing them at shutting the lights off at 8 o'clock without any warning, and then we're using our lights on our flashlights there on the phones to try and pick up everything. So we're just asking if we can extend it out, the 10 o'clock till like maybe December 1st, just on a Friday and Saturday.
Steve?
I believe the lights are on timers, but I'll check with Todd to make sure that the lights aren't being shut off while people are there.
He's behind you. 15 minutes after 8.
15 minutes after 8 when they're shut off.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
so-
so we didn't know that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's okay.
I mean, we automatically thought, because it's still hot out, that everything was still open till 10 o'clock. I didn't realize the signs, and then, just everything gets shut off on us.
Yeah, it's the change of the seasons after Labor Day, I believe, the pools start closing at 8 o'clock. It's certainly something we can look at as a level of service increase, and
Okay.
we're getting ready to meet, I believe, if we can next week to talk about budget, so something we can consider at that point.
Yeah, for if you pay your people $10 an hour for an extra 3 months, you're talking about 16 hours a month. We're talking less than $500 a year for the year extra, just to give the residents. Because it's an active family community. We all like to hang out together. We all like our kids to associate with each other and have a good time. And that's the whole purpose of going to the pools and everything. We just enjoy hanging out. We want to get the kids all routed up, and then at 8 o'clock, when they're still going, take them to one of our houses and have the kids start climbing the walls.
So your suggestion is not necessarily to have any one pool open, but to have one pool open later?
I mean, if you want to do one, but we kind of bounce around all the pools. I mean, mostly we're here at the Spring Park, and then over at North Village.
Bigger pools.
Well,
Yeah.
Todd, how late is the Spring Park pool open till?
All of them except for Spring Lake are open until 8. Spring Lake closes half hour before sunset.
And Spring Park, though, is one of our heated pools, though.
It is, yes.
So we can leave that open until 10
Is it not
o'clock.
lit? Is that why we don't, is it not lit there?
Just like,
It's just
Spring
that
Lake closes because it's
they
not.
just need to move the electronic. They're traditional hours that the community's had for a long time. Based once school starts back up, the hours end a little bit earlier.
And I understand that. We're not asking for the weekdays or anything. We're just asking for Friday and Saturday when, there's no one's going to work the next day. No one's going to school. The kids aren't going to school. And, just let us have more fun, enjoy our weekends with each other.
all right, well, let's talk about the budgets as far as doing that, okay?
Okay. Yeah, if you're just going to do one, it's not even going to be a couple
Well,
$100.
if we're going to bring somebody in, we can leave all the pools open, basically.
Right, yeah, if you can do that, I'll even volunteer to close the pool down that we're at,
Well, put an application in for CCO.
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, pay me $1 a month and I'll be more than happy to do it. I don't care, Yeah, I know, I got that feeling. I can feel it right now, so.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. All right, so, before I go further, there's a lot of soccer people here. Am I correct in that? No? Were we supposed to be addressing something regarding the soccer fields with you tonight or something? Or did you have an interest in that?
We're all here for the meeting, Jack.
Okay, well, it's surprising. It's so many people. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Stephen Button, 1562 Castile Street. I'm a volunteer coach with Celebration Youth Soccer. I was recently elected to the board as well for CYS. I guess there's a few of us here just to represent the 350 kids that are registered each spring and fall in the soccer program. We feel that we do need the civic corridor space. I think as far as I understand, it's happening. It's just the configuration and working out the pros and cons of each. Just give a couple of quick stories. I had a coach approach me last night and he says, "Steve, which field is field number 3?" And I said, "I think it's one of the top fields up at the K8." He says, "Oh, for the last 3 weeks I've not been able to use it because there's been other teams there or the middle school has been playing." So there's one scenario where we need the field space. He's 3 weeks in a row not have space there. Another scenario, off season, I had about 20 kids that I was doing, extra soccer coaching with, and we were literally bounced about from North Village, Spring Park, East Village. We couldn't use the K8 because we were being reseeded. We couldn't find a space. Every time I went to practice in a place, even though it was pre-arranged, we were told you have to move because lacrosse is here or something else is happening. And that was 20 kids from in town that wanted to play sport. And I don't think we want to deny our kids to be active and play sport. But yeah, we're just here to represent the number of kids that are involved with.
Okay, well, let me just give you a quick update on the civic corridor, okay? We've met with Jack Davis and Josh Davis, the owners of the golf course property that's adjacent to the CDD building and also our property. And now we're going to legal as far as getting an agreement to use their easement. They're willing to give us a 20-foot easement, which is what we want. We need to have that as a permanent easement, and also an 11-foot temporary easement for construction purposes. So that solved a large portion of our road problem out there. It actually saved us $400,000. Okay, so we will be starting to go out for permits and eventually get an RFP going as far as building the fields. The fields would be basically one artificial turf field, 2 regular turf fields, concession stands and stuff like that. So that's in the plan, but I don't see anybody be on that field till January of 2019 because it'll take us 4 months just to go through the county's permitting process to get anything done. Plus, it's 2,000 dump truck loads of sand to fill that area. Okay. Now, while we're at the meeting, Mr. Davis also alluded to the thought that maybe we should buy the whole golf course property. And that's one of the things that the board is going to consider this evening as far as going out for an appraiser. Okay, if that happens, I'm not going to say what's going to happen to that property yet, but there's plans. It's good plans. Okay? So we're moving along, and it will reshape our master plan as we go along.
Yeah.
Okay?
I have confidence in everything you guys are doing. I think with the announcement that Island Village is going to be happening, I think if we get ahead of the need of the 1,300 homes that there's going to be there, all the families and the kids and stuff that are coming in, if we have this facility, I think we increase the value of our town as a whole.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so let's go back to the meeting then. All right, so I need a motion to adopt the agenda, please.
Motion to adopt.
And a second, please. Tim seconded. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, the agenda is adopted. Now to approve the minutes. Need a motion to approve the minutes. Tim, David second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Minutes are approved. Down to committee reports then. So ARC is next. Michael?
Thank you. Good evening. Michael Valaket.
Michael,
is it something I said?
ARC scares a lot of people off.
Yeah, apparently. Michael Valaket, Chairman of your Architectural Review Committee. As you know, as I stated last meeting, I think it's important for, if not the chairman, one of the committee members to be here as a liaison to answer any questions that you find people may have on a monthly basis to us, and you're welcome to come to our meeting if you see a reason to be there to explain some of the decisions that are made here to us. In the September meeting, we had 108 applications, up by 17 from the month before. 101 were approved and 7 were declined. The top ARC requests were 20 landscaping, 14 painting, 14 roof, and 10 structural changes. And I'd like to say that with the help of staff and the legal department working with staff approval on things, our agenda has gone from somewhere in between 25 and 35 down to about 10 or 12 because staff's been given the okay to approve items that aren't changed out of the pattern books. And I think that's a great thing. It's helping us a lot to get out of there before midnight on our Monday night meetings. But we are going to welcome for the first time our newest committee member the next meeting, James Rosnick. We're looking forward to him taking an active role. And we'll, as you know, we'll be back up to 5 votes in case I ever have to make a deciding vote on anything, which I haven't had to do yet. So I'll summarize what I was going to say because it's been running a little long for you tonight. But as you know, solar panels were an issue. We had to put them on hold for a little while we checked with legal at my request, and the staff did a great job getting the legal opinions on certain things for solar panels on roofs. Eric's been very patient waiting for his, and you'll see in your packet for tonight. You can discuss it later with staff if you have any questions on it. But basically, we had a couple that the code says you can't see a solar panel from the road, basically. And if the house faces south, what do you do? So the Florida state law is clear on that. Anything facing due south or 45 degrees east or west of south, you have to allow them to put solar panels. And then all we can do at that point is we've asked them to screen them the best they can. If they can put high vegetation in, if they can't, that's okay. And if they have contrasting colors around the outside of the panels, like we had one that was dark panels on a dark roof, and the outside edging all the way around all the panels was white. And so we asked them, and it's in the new code, to cover that with aluminum trim as close as they can to the roof color, and that's going to be in it. Trying to look into the future needs based on hurricanes this year, hurricane panels. We're talking about that, and staff's got a good report for you and ideas for the new code on hurricane panels, shutters, roll down, stuff like that. So you'll be seeing that, I think, this evening. It's on the agenda this evening, isn't it?
No, the hurricane services update on the
Okay, thank you. So you won't be seeing that tonight. We're working on that, though, because we're going to see an influx of hurricane shutter requests and roll downs, things like that in the future. You may have already. If not, you will be hearing from a fine gentleman named David Finnegan on Elderberry. He came into our meeting requesting white shingle change on his roof, which was not in the color palette. Based on the history of that particular color, it was rejected every time it was there, before I was on the board. And then with Jeffries, our architect consultant, his opinion was we can't pass it. So we are going to look into it because they're Energy Star, and you're going to start seeing a lot of people looking at, with the solar panels, also wanting to use an Energy Star shingle, which reflects heat back out of the attic, so your air conditioning costs go down. So I think we're going to work with that okay. Staff is coming up with Energy Star, a complete color palette list that we'll be looking to put into the code, and hopefully him and many others can find a color that will be acceptable to the pattern book. There's new landscape guidelines, and the staff did an amazing job on that. It's thick, but it's all color-coded now for all the different shrubs and everything. I think that's in the packet tonight, isn't it? Yeah, so look it over. If you have any questions, obviously go to staff on that. But they did a fantastic job on that. Lastly, just a note, because I went over your packet for tonight, the long 160 some odd pages in your packet tonight, and you had a bunch of reports on the fallen trees around here because of the hurricane. I've been talking about these trees since I moved here 3.5 years ago, and being a builder in Florida for 28 years, particularly on a barrier island for 25 down in Sanibel, as you know. I couldn't understand why the engineers that designed this town didn't put what we call a parapet wall around trees. When you're going to plant a northern-based tree, whether it's, I know live oaks are in Florida, but but you got oaks, maples, birch, pine. When you plant, and I'm only saying this because they're going to be replanting probably 30% of them around the town. If you put a 4-foot square parapet wall, 32 inches deep, concrete wall, it will force a northern type tree to grow a taproot before the roots go sideways and pop up sidewalks and curbs, which is what they're doing now. Forget the hurricane. So when you look at the cost, I know that's not here, CDD, I assume it's CDD, but maybe you can put a little pressure on them as they're replacing these trees to look at the cost of parapet walls versus the cost of what they spend every year grinding sidewalks and driveways and things like that. Yes.
Michael, will you send that information to Steve also, because CROA lost 51 trees at the last count that Todd gave me, and if we have some trees that are in that area, and we also are going to talk to an arborist about what maybe we shouldn't be putting in areas also. At the last CDD meeting, CDD had lost 231 trees, and the cost to replace these are between $1,100 to $1,600 a tree. So top end for the CDD is about $370,000. Mm-hmm. Ours is about $84,000. And you want to get trees that will make it through the next hurricane, because there'll probably be another one.
Oh yeah, we do live in South Florida. Like I said, if they also compare the cost of constantly 40 hours plus a week of crews out there grinding these sidewalks and driveways and road surfaces. And you may or may not know, I was the one that threw Celebration, what do they call it, the app. When I first saw it happening, particularly over on East Lawn Lake, they were blowing a cloud of dust, covering houses with their cloud of dust, and I sent them a simple notice saying that they make dust shrouds for grinders and saws and vacuums, and if you're not going to do it wet, do it with a vacuum and a dust shroud. And they did start doing that. They're not consistent on it, but they are starting to do that, because that dust, and those guys don't even wear masks. I mean, talk about asbestos problems, wait till those guys get older. So that's all I have tonight. If any questions for anything we're doing at ARC?
No, Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Not a question, but a couple comments. First, thank you for your comments about expedited reviews, which is great. Thank you for the information updated on solar panels, and thank you for looking into, or staff looking into, the hurricane shutters or panels. So thank you on 3 counts. One suggestion, what I would hope is that these could be put forward maybe through the Celebration News, so the residents can know about these. It's nice to know that these are going on. How many residents watch this? And I know there's a lot here tonight, but some succinct articles, working with JR or whomever to, inform the residents that these things are out there and trying to make things better for those who want to do these improvements to their own homes.
Definitely.
So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, we are finding that there's, just driving around town, as I do every day, people start to do things like hurricane shelters and stuff without permission, and we're trying to get a jump on that before it goes too far, so we can put some regulations out there to make sure it's done consistently and are consistent with our code. So, and I really enjoy working with
Sooner than later.
Yeah.
Right. I really enjoy working with Susanna directly on all this.
When you're looking at your hurricane shelters, can you look into what would be acceptable for the condos? Because during that, I had a lot of my owners asking about that, and we told them they had to really do it from the inside out. Not as effective, but at least they felt that they were doing something. But while you're looking at it as a standard for the homes, please don't forget the condos, because we also get questioned and asked about that. And the statute is very specific. You cannot stop homeowners from doing it. So the actual thing of them doing it, we can't stop. But maybe, as you say, just get some regulation that's acceptable and standards that's going to be acceptable all around. But please look at the condos as well. That is acceptable for us to do. And quite how we would get 3 stories up, I have no clue. But that's something we'll figure out. But if you could look to what would be acceptable for us as well.
Susanna will make a note of that, and we'll work on that as well. We talk quite often, Susanna and I, and we really enjoy working with the staff.
Michael, thank you and all the volunteers on the art committee that don't actually have the easiest job in the world some evenings. I sat in on a few of your meetings, and thank you for your leadership and the way every time I've been in there, everyone gets judged equally, no matter who they are in town or whatever. You do a very fair spread across the board. I've heard you turn all kinds of people down, friends, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. We do the best we can. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Okay, I'm going to pull King Execs in here for a second because we had a little unfinished business here. Okay, so Debbie's going to stand up and recognize Annika.
I have actually 2 people I want to recognize. Annika had to fly to New York because her daughter works for the Magic, which got diverted for Hurricane Irma to...
Back to New York.
Yeah, so the Magic is safe, and Annika's here, and I just wanted to thank her. She is the manager at Georgetown Condominiums, and she stepped up in such a huge way, including chopping up a huge limb in my yard and surprised me. Thank you. They covered streets in our community that, again, it was just hard to get to everything. They've been working. These guys came out on their own time and just miraculously were there for people, helping in every direction. We talked on the phone during the storm a little bit till our power went out. And she's just really been a great community partner, and I'm very appreciative. She also had 3 other guys that could not be here, Luis, Jose, and Jason, so I have something for them as well. So, thank you. That's for them. And this is for the guys.
Go closer.
Here, which picture?
Show us your certificate.
Thank you. That's for the guys that didn't know their last names. Okay, thank you. And wait up here, we have one more person, Virginia, who I, again, asked if she could go for an hour or so, and I believe she stayed and went every single day, and she was so sunburned they had to pull her under the tent and give her water, and she just wouldn't stop. She's an extremely hard worker. If any of you need anything, anytime. Virginia's daughter and my daughter grew up going to school together, and she just was there helping in every direction. The guys kept saying, "Who is this woman?" So thank you. Thank you. So go ahead and get a picture over here. And then you guys, if you could get one together. Oh, you got it? Okay. You got it. Okay. Thank you very much.
I can attest that Virginia was there every day.
Yeah.
All right, let's resume. Covenants?
Good evening. I'm giving the covenants report tonight. I just want to go back a little bit to Michael's ARC update, which was excellent, and explain a little bit about the hurricane shutters, because I know there were some interested parties about that. And of course, whenever there's a hurricane, you need to do whatever you need to do to protect your house and your family, and there's no covenants on that. People want to do temporary boarding up, whatever you have to do, that's necessary. A lot of times people have inquired about permanent hurricane shutters, and those are opposed to what we have a lot in the community, which is decorative shutters. They don't really open and close, they're more just to look nice. But hurricane shutters are usually made of an aluminum as opposed to vinyl, which is a plastic. Sometimes the older ones are wood, and they're sturdier, they're heavier, obviously they're wind resistant. You can actually close them and you get like operable, closures and snaps. They're usually a lot more expensive, but there's companies out there. I kind of did some research today. There's a company called Florida Shutters, I think, and they have like a colonial style that it's in a hurricane type of product. So if you have any questions about that, you can always call or stop by Community Standards, and we can help you look into those products and get you through the ARC process. So moving on to covenants, in August, about 936 inspections and re-inspections were conducted of single-family and service area homes. 80 resale and follow-up inspections were conducted. 174 completed ARC projects were reviewed. 36 emails were sent out for minor items, and 91 first letters were sent out for major items or multiple minor ones. Out of respect for owners in celebration trying to prepare for Hurricane Irma, and then of course recovering afterwards, inspections have been suspended since September 5th. Unless there's any objections from the board, Community Standards will resume next Monday on October 2nd. Obviously acknowledging that some residents will still be out there dealing with debris from their landscape and trying to pick up, so we understand that. At the August covenants hearing, the committee reviewed 15 properties with 5 resulting in confirmed fines. Also due to Hurricane Irma, the covenants hearing for September was canceled, and all agenda items will be voted on by the covenants committee in October. There's also no proposed fines on the agenda tonight. And the Covenants Committee is hoping for a 7th and final member to their group. Tonight on the agenda is a request for the addition of Michael Smith to join the Covenants Committee. The topic chosen by the Covenants Committee for this month is managing your home while you are away. The committee wants to give a friendly reminder to residents that even if you don't live in your home all year round, that it's still your responsibility to have it maintained. It's good if you can get a landscaper or property management that you can count on and keep in good communication with them. I know the board and I have seen over the years many appeals where homeowners got fined because there was just that lack of communication between the property management and the owner, where the owner thought it was being done and the property management didn't know about something. So that communication is really important, and if you send them our way, we'll be happy to work with them on your behalf. Also, when homeowners are not in town all year long, they want to install security cameras. Totally understandable. You can come by Town Hall. We can help you fill out an application, get that in the process so you can get them in a place that's approvable and monitor your home when you're away. Finally, our inspector's out there in the field all the time. She has materials for you, applications. We have lists of vendors. We have a plant list, anything that you can need. So if you see her, just wave her down and she can help you. Thank you.
Thanks, Suzanne.
I have a question.
Yes.
About the owners, the snowbirds, or people that are away, part of the issues we had during the hurricane is we can't just take their furniture and put it somewhere. It's trespassing. Is there a plan we can add, because I didn't see it in the master plan for the hurricane, where we have notification or make it clear to absentee owners or part-time owners that this is something that we need to address, and if they want to ahead of time give us the codes and whatever information and sign something, but again, without the written permission, we can't help them. We had so many people that called from other states that I had to say you can send an email, you can send something in writing, and but without that.
Yeah, it's a good point, and that's really great. What we encourage and hope, and I had a lot of calls before the hurricane, was neighbors reaching out on behalf of other neighbors saying, I know her, and she, we know her, so we're willing to help. And what we would do is we would contact that owner and say, your neighbor's looking for you to help out, and we would put them in touch that way, and they would be like, thank you so much, and we connect them that way. And of course, there was a volunteer group, and if there were some issues, we would reach out to the homeowner and ask, if you would give your permission, then this group is willing to help you move your things. It's definitely a concern when people aren't in town. That's why communications is so great about putting out that information in the Friday Flash and the newspaper saying, make sure you can, move all those things that are high risk. And if you know someone in town, ask them to help you out, or if you have neighbors.
Yeah, just as we look at adding 1,000+ homes in island villages, we want to make sure we have some things in place, because the storm was all over the place, and had one come faster or had been more severe, we would have, I think, been strained. But you guys did a great job. Thank you.
And I think to Debbie's point, we can add that to our hurricane preparation plan and make sure that as we get to 96, 72 hours out of the impending storm, that we have some sort of communication to residents that aren't here.
And the second thing, and I don't think this falls under you, I don't know who it falls under, but the porta potties, please. I mean, and the dumpsters uncovered. It was just, I had so many calls. I mean, the congressman's wife is calling me, going, help me, and it's frustrating because we can't just go pick up other people's properties.
I got a lot of calls about that too before the hurricane, and so I was making a lot of calls to contractors and owners, and really trying to get, sometimes, the owners are having a hard time to contractors, and we talk to them so much that we just circumvent kind of, and I also had some contractors that were willing to help with dumpsters that they weren't even theirs, because they knew it was a risk, and they're trying to be part of the community too. I had a lot of concerned residents about that. In fact, one of them, I know the sheriff showed up because a resident called, and the sheriff said, you can't do anything about it. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, Suzanne almost needs like a team of 2 people, seriously, 4 or 5 days out, because those were they're major issues, because things fly.
There were quite a few contractors the day before the hurricane that were just working to get the jobs completed, because they were already 75% through. So I know a lot of homeowners were panicking and wanted to make sure that those obstacles were picked up, but a lot of them that I went and talked to, they were just rushing to try and get their work done so they could get cleaned up and out of there before.
And Celebration Sanitation was a help with that too, by the way.
Awesome. We did a great job, but just if we can just add it in somehow.
Yep.
And we had...
This is a good example of taking the time and get to know your neighbor, get their contact information, especially those who don't live here. My next door neighbor lives in Indiana, and we communicated all the way through it. I took all the stuff off his patio. When he came down one Sunday after the storm, we put it back together, and it was
a good neighbor to have. Yeah. And Tim's on the team for the disaster. If there's any suggestions too, he's one of the team members, as well as Steve, obviously. And again, you guys did a phenomenal job, but it's just things were stretched, and I'm just afraid if we had another 25% of our homes in, we might need a little help. So, thank you.
All right, special events. Eileen.
Eileen Barr. Guess what? Tomorrow is Good Neighbor Day. I mean, this couldn't be more perfect. I'd like to thank the CROA board for recognizing some of our neighbors who went above and beyond. But I think one of the things we learned is that all of our neighbors, all of us tried as much as we could to help each other. And it is, in fact, Good Neighbor Day tomorrow. And the lifestyle staff will be grilling up hot dogs from 3 to 6 p.m. outside Town Hall. Also, several of our program partners, along with civic and service groups, will be on hand. That's new for this year. Special events will be there. We will be selling our bricks and our tiles, and we will also be asking people to sign up for give us their information so they can become friends of the dog park. And at a certain point down the road, after a number of events, we will select one friend of the dog park to receive a free brick. So please come and visit our booth. Tickets for the Founders Day picnic are now on sale. Residents may purchase their tickets online at celebrationparksandrec.com or at the front desk at Town Hall. The picnic will be held on Saturday, November 11th from 1 to 3 p.m. at Lakeside and will again be catered by Four Rivers Barbecue. I've been told it is going to be a really delicious lunch. Tickets are just $5 each. To date, we have sold 184 tickets. Encourage your friends and neighbors to purchase their tickets. The deadline is November 3rd. And speaking of Founders Day weekend, applications for the Veterans Day Parade are now available and will be included in the October edition of the Celebration News. Porch and yard sale is October 7th. Deadline for applications is October 4th. Getting into the Halloween spirit, on October 12th, as CROA presents The Nightmare Before Christmas on the Great Lawn, my granddaughter's favorite movie. Movie start time is 7:30 p.m. And don't forget to make plans for our other upcoming cinematic features. Beauty and the Beast on November 18th, The Polar Express on December 12th, and our Wind Down Wednesday feature, which will be La La Land on December 13th. And I'd like to point out that Wind Down is spelled W-I-N-E. Fall Fest will be October 21st at Lakeside from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Among the highlights scheduled for the day, a pair of performances by Off Kilter, a live bird show, pumpkin decorating, bouncy houses, and face painters. And finally, please think about buying tickets for The Lion King. This will be a bus coming from here to the Phillips Center, probably about 12 o'clock for a matinee, very good orchestra seats, and then we will get you back into celebration time for dinner. The date is March 10th. The cost is $124 a person, but, this is a big but, tickets must be bought before November 15th. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. All right, recreation.
I'll give the update for the Recreation Committee. This month, the Recreation Committee reviewed the youth sports leagues, the fall youth sports leagues, looked at the minimum standards requirements that were implemented as part of the recreation program plan, and ensured that all of those minimum standards requirements were provided. Parks and recreation staff are going to be creating an end-of-season survey for all of our sports leagues, so when their seasons are completed, we'll have some questions for them to answer on the quality of those sports leagues. All three of our leagues now for soccer, Little League, and lacrosse have their information and they're up and running for the fall. And park monitors are out and they're checking IDs of coaches, ensuring they're listed on the appropriate rosters. So they're putting in the measures to ensure that the minimum standards for youth sports are being implemented. A few waiver requests were approved, and they were for either for fundraising activities or for use of the North Village Room. And there was a discussion on swimming and dance RFPs, and those are finalized and will be presented at the next meeting, which is next week. And that's the Recreation Committee update.
Thank you. And while you're there, well, Susan with the finance report.
Okay. As of August 31st, 2017, we had operating cash of almost $1.6 million, and we had reserve fund cash of $5,002,000. Of that, our capital improvement, we have $2,197,000, and we have replacement reserves of $1,008,000. Capital improvement income year to date is $693,000, which brings us to the $2.1 million. I'll turn it over to Paul, who's going to comment on the variances.
I was just going to talk about a few of the variances, especially since we're going into budget next year. Really our utilities are a big one, is that our water is 20% above budget. We're down about $15,000. Our electricity is actually 20% better than budget, 17%. I think we talked, electricity may just be we're going to LED, and that's just savings, and which is good. We have an upfront investment in the LED, but now we're getting the savings. I talked to you a little bit about the water, and it got very confusing, so if you could explain what is going on with our water and how that works, because I think that may affect our budget next year as well.
The water is for reused water, reclaimed water is what it's for, and we use that for our irrigation systems. We get a bulk rate, and we started that several years ago, pre-Susan. And the bulk rate gives us one bill, and then they give us, the ECBD gives us a listing of all the meter numbers and how many gallons they use. last February, the gallonage that they gave us changed 1 meter from a meter number to NA. We inquired, we never really got the answer that we needed in order to determine, but ultimately we understood that the gallons for that meter were no longer being charged to us, so we didn't include those gallons in our allocation. We have an allocation spreadsheet that we've built. So when we talked to our auditor this year, we knew there was a problem. We had gone out and had meters tested. We had gone out, just done everything we can to try and determine why our water, particularly in the service areas, was up. And so the auditor discovered that, yes, those gallons were included in our bill, and we've made an adjustment. She'll talk to you. We're meeting with the auditor on Thursday, and she'll talk to you, Paul, as our treasurer, about that. And so we've made an adjustment. So what ended up happening is by June of last year, we hadn't been including that meter in the allocation, and it's for the passive park. So it affected our budget. So our budget that we built for 2017 was off because of that one particular meter. So we've got that corrected, we've got it figured out, and moving forward, we know exactly
Is there
where.
some question as to whether are we getting estimates in terms of our usage, or are
No.
we confident that we are actually getting charged for what we are using?
We are getting charged for what we're using.
And the service areas are getting accurate,
Yes,
the split between the
absolutely.
service areas and
Yes.
CROA is accurate?
Yes.
There's no question about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It is now. I think that's what's important, because we were getting charged, it was just being allocated to the wrong line. So to have that correction on that spreadsheet
Okay.
has fixed it to make sure that everything's allocated properly.
Okay.
And you'll see in the budget requests the reflection.
Okay. Okay. The other item is pool maintenance. That's higher by 20%, about $13,000. And you gave me the list of maintenance items.
Right.
I guess there's quite a few. Obviously, our pools are aging. I mean, Todd may be able to answer this. Is this something that will continue, or is this we just had an unusually tough year in terms of pool maintenance?
I haven't had a chance to, we just spoke about the overage this afternoon, so I haven't gotten really into the numbers as to where they are allocated, but the majority of the equipment, if that's where it's referencing, is updated, so long-term we're good. Majority of those should be out of reserves, so we'll look at those as well and make sure they're...
So we might have booked something to operating that should have been reserved?
It's possible,
Okay,
but
we'll take a look at that. Okay.
dig in deep to it and find out where the issue is.
All right.
Can I speak on the water as well?
Sure.
The increase would also represent the super dry springtime we had. We pumped a whole bunch of water onto the ground for, 3 months, it seemed. So it spiked it up quite a bit.
Okay. Yeah, and I think we were doing a better job of watering as well, right? I mean, I think...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a little overused in the spring, but it's all balanced back out now.
Okay. That's all I got.
All right. Management report, Steve.
The first item I have is, we've talked a little bit about the CROA and the CJC budget tonight. We had originally scheduled to have our budget work session the week of the hurricane, so we had to postpone that. I will be sending to you all tonight a preliminary version of that budget. It's in the Excel worksheet mode with the multiple GL accounts, but we wanted to do that so that you had an opportunity, if you wanted to see what it looked like if you moved a number here or moved a number there, how that reflects on the overall budget. So you're going to have a ton of information, but we did want to get that to you before the meeting so you had some time to look at it and do a little research before we actually sit down and meet. What I'm requesting is either Tuesday or Friday of next week to have our budget work session, and we're looking at between 9 o'clock and 4 o'clock. And if you all want to tell me before we leave tonight, or if you want to, we can do an email group tomorrow and we can figure out what day works best for everybody.
No, it said the 3rd or the
Tuesday
6th.
or Friday, so the 3rd or the 6th.
I'd like to see the 6th. Anybody else do it?
Friday.
I'm better Friday. I can't do Tuesday.
I will be here Tuesday.
I can't do it Friday.
Can you call in?
I can do it Tuesday.
And we can have the phone available if we can't get everybody on board.
Everybody else can do this Friday. Can you call in?
I can do both.
What's
Dave and
that?
I can't do Friday.
Oh, you can't do Friday?
I can do Friday.
Oh, you can't
I
do
think
Friday?
you're the only one that can't do Friday, David.
I'll figure
Can
it
you
out.
call me?
I'll figure it out.
All right, Brendan's Friday from 9 to 4.
It's a great way to spend a Friday, going over numbers.
Yeah, I could play golf, thank you.
9 to 4?
And I'll send an invite to everybody. The next item is in front of you. I added a handout, and this is for a bill that's being proposed at the Senate. And CAI has reached out to Senator Bill Nelson to ask that this be amended, and they put together a letter as part of this bill. And what this is the Amateur Radio Parity Act. It's H.R. 555. And the way that the bill is currently written, in the opinion of CAI, will cause for a lot of confusion, a lot of litigation amongst homeowner associations. It allows also for homeowners to install their amateur radios any way that they would like, which could cause some covenant problems. So CAI is asking for some modifications to that. When CAI reached out to Senator Nelson, he did ask, and he specifically mentioned Celebration in the Villages and other communities like that to give their opinion on what they think about this bill. So I've included the CAI letter for you and just a quick summary of the bill on the cover page. And what they're asking is you could put together a letter, or we can put together a letter and have Jack as the board president sign and send to Senator Nelson's office.
Okay, so what you're saying is, can you clarify what you're asking exactly on this? You're asking for someone to get approval before they have equipment in their home?
No, the bill would allow them to where they would not have to get approval to have the antennas and the other equipment that's needed to operate an amateur radio. And what CAI is asking is that they modify that bill, and the modifications are listed in the letter. So really, we would be taking this letter and just kind of making it as Celebration requesting that we support the request from CAI.
That we regulate the position.
That we regulate, correct.
We can't vote on this, but we can give Steve a consensus, I believe.
All right.
Have Steve write a letter, have it sent out to all of us, and Jack sign it.
All right. Paul, are you good with this?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to like TV.
Okay, David, you good with this?
With the revision.
Debbie, you good with this?
With the revision,
yes.
All right, let's go with this.
Okay, and I'd also, I'm going to reach out to the CDD, send them a copy of this, and ask them to do the same.
All right, thank you.
The next item that I have for you is an update on, I know this is a CNOA item, but the CNOA board yesterday had their meeting, and they did ask that I update the CROA board. As you know, CNOA has been in mediation and now arbitration with the Town Center Foundation, and the Town Center Condo Association recently has requested destructive testing on the buildings, and that destructive testing is going to cause them to have to open up those buildings and have some holes in it. So a motion was granted by the arbitration panel to stay the arbitration until after the completion of the destructive testing. The original hearings were scheduled for next week, and the motion was granted for that to be stayed so that it will pick back up once the deconstructive testing is completed.
Steve, who requested that from the arbitration panel?
It was so the original request for the deconstructive testing came from the Town Center Condo Association, but the Town Center Foundation, who Canoa is currently in arbitration with, they requested the stay.
Okay, because I talked to Laurel today, and she was not aware that it had been delayed. So who requested the stay?
This is new information that we just received as of last week, and I just had the update to the Canoa board yesterday. So.
Okay, wait a minute, but if you said Town Center Condo, as Town Center requested the stay, but she's not aware of it,
No.
she's the
So
president.
let me clarify that it's another alphabet soup scenario here.
Okay.
Town Center.
I was at the foundation.
Yes.
The foundation. Thank you, got it. So that came from Metten.
Right. I'll clarify for the audience.
Got Metten. Yeah.
The audience and those watching at home.
When that happens, though, isn't there a way that she could be notified, even if she's out of town? I mean, it just seemed like she should have been aware.
Well, so the difference, the TCCA is the Town Center Condo Association. Foundation. That TCF is the Town Center Foundation.
But the lawyers must have communicated, and somebody must have known if it...
TCF... Well,
Yeah, but if the mediation for October 4th and 5th has been stopped, if the court date has been stopped, wouldn't somebody's lawyer notify somebody?
so TCF is who the arbitration case from CROA is in. So TCF is a member of the Celebration Non-Residential Owners Association.
Right.
So they filed the motion,
Correct.
and the motion was granted.
Correct.
Now, the attorneys have been talking to each other. CROA's attorney did speak with the Town Center Condo Association's attorney. Obviously, the Town Center Foundation's attorney knew because they filed the motion. So the attorneys have communicated with each other. But because this is not a CROA issue, this is a CROA issue,
Right.
we wanted to make sure CROA board was updated first at their meeting yesterday.
Correct, but why, I was just saying, why wasn't she notified?
It sounds like a breakdown of TCCA's attorney. They're not communicating with the board.
And TCCA is not in any type of arbitration or mediation with CROA. They have their own separate case with the Town Center Foundation.
Thank you.
I know, is that clear as mud now?
It's clear as mud.
Okay.
It's about as clear as our movie lease, which will be up in 2019.
Okay. All right. The last item that I have is to talk a little bit about hurricane preparation and cleanup. And just to give a quick update, before the hurricane, as we started noticing it turning and coming more towards Florida, we pulled out the 96, 72, 48, 24-hour preparation plan. And we pulled together what has been considered the CERT team in town, the emergency response team for Celebration, and started communicating with the Osceola County Emergency Operations Center. And the team met, and we met with Davey, we met with Gerard, we met with the foundation, we met with Thriving in Place, we met with all the different governing entities, CDD. We had two of our board members, Jack and Tim, participating in the meeting. And we talked about preparation for the storm, during the storm, and then cleanup after the storm. So we had the community, and Todd's crew had all the CROA amenities all tied down and all ready to go for the hurricane. We worked with the Osceola County to try and make the sandbag line and distribution a little bit more effective. We worked with the development district to make sure that everything was taken care of from their standpoint. And then we hunkered down and rode out the storm. And then Todd and his guys immediately the next day got back to work and putting the community back together, getting the pools open. He had, I believe, most of the major parks, the community parks, back open within a day. All the pools were back open within that week. So while the kids were out of school, they had an opportunity to utilize the parks and the pools within the community. I'm going to ask Todd to come up and give you a little bit more in-depth, detailed report on the work that he's done. And then we'll talk a little bit with Davey about the maintenance report.
And I'll also say, he also put together the post-hurricane inspection report in your board packet.
Is there going to be a debriefing with the CERT team on this?
There will be. We are going to schedule that. I will do that either tomorrow or Friday and try and get that scheduled. We won't have the meeting tomorrow or Friday, but I'll try and get it scheduled as soon as possible.
In your board packet, I believe you got the hurricane post-Irma report. I came out Monday after the storm had subsided, dodging tree limbs and such, and just checked for hazards. We didn't take any major hits on any of the buildings themselves, just minor cosmetic things needing pressure washed. As Leonard had alluded to, many trees went down. Hardest hit was Spring Park as well as Artisan area, and that would be the elm trees. So as Leonard had mentioned, we're talking with arborists, which Scott Stinson with Davey is an arborist certified, and we're looking at different tree options, which we'll go through ARC and Albert to get approval for those. We don't want to keep repeating the same mistakes. Little things that we saw.
Did the number go past 51, or is that where it's
No, I think we're right at that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I actually have the Davey tree survey that was done back in 2014 to compare them to, so there's a detailed list on the tags that each tree has, so we know exactly what was lost and what size it was.
Thank you.
As Steve said, the pools got open systematically. We did cleanup of the entire park and then moved on to the next one instead of just getting little bits and pieces together. The first thing was all the playgrounds, because the kids were bored and they wanted to go out and play. The disappointing part was there's lots of tree limbs on the playgrounds, and there's kids and parents playing on the playground. So we did our best to clear them as quickly as possible. We got rid of the hazards, so it didn't have any injuries that I'm aware of. So hopefully everything went well with the remainder of the cleanup around them. Scott, you won't come up, Scott? Scott's been working diligently through Davie to get all the trees cleaned up. The first process was getting any of the hazards that were in the streets that the CDD hadn't gotten to, anything over the sidewalks, and what you call them, widow makers, the big limbs that are hanging, dangling, just waiting to fall down. So he and I did our survey today. We didn't see too many missed items, which we're happy to say. Right now he's in the phase of going out of cleanup into more of a cosmetic, get the tree back to the shape it needs to be. And that'll take, 30, 60 days to get through that. If you look up, you'll see lots of dead tree limbs and leaves hanging up in the trees. Majority of those are all cleaned up, and now they're going in and getting twisted limbs and for the health of the tree itself.
How are we communicating with CDD on some of this stuff? Because, and I'll use Spring Park Loop as an example. There's several trees along Spring Park Loop that are either severely scarred or leaning. And one person said that one tree keeps leaning more and more towards his house each day.
Tim, I can answer that. I think from our standpoint with Davey, we've been focusing on the parks to get those clean. I have communicated back and forth with Russ and with Gary Moyer at the CDD and Maria. If there's any trees that homeowner feels hasn't been addressed by CDD, we would encourage them to contact the CDD and let them know.
Maybe take a picture of it and sell a service?
They can sell a service will work, or they can call and let them know. They prioritize to try and get all the leaning and off of fences and off of houses, and I think that they've done a really good job of getting those addressed. They do have some that are still leaning. They have a lot of the turf that's pulled up with irrigation lines exposed, so they're working through getting all that accomplished. But their first objective was to get tree debris cleared and moved.
Yeah, they did a good job of that.
They did. Yeah. It looks completely different today than it did the day after the hurricane.
And they're not replanting the Chinese elm, so.
I also spoke with Russ this afternoon to see how they were doing, and he said that they're still doing some street cleanup. Scott and I saw a few places today, and so they're probably the rest of the week, he said. So by Monday, they should be more into checking for hazards, hanging over. But he said that's going to take quite a while to get through all the trees. But they'll be in the same mode that we are, as protecting the trees.
As far as the as far as the Davie person there, during the CDD meeting, the CDD asked the approximate cost of replacing their trees that they lost, and he named both ends. He went from the crepe myrtle up to, I'm not sure if it was the oak or whatever, the most expensive. What have you found on tree prices right now? Are they jacked up too high?
If we were to replace in the next 60 days, yes, they're going to be jacked up very high. A lot of nurseries suffered the same fate, for lack of a better word, as we did in terms of damage. A lot of strong leader trees are broken. A lot of brittle wood trees are broken. So in that perspective, my recommendation would not be let's rush out and pick a replacement. I think as staff and as board, and with myself included, we should assess really thoroughly what we want to put back in. Debbie alluded to not Chinese elm. I love Chinese elm, but it is the absolute wrong tree for these streets, without a doubt. So
that's where the arborist comes in.
Exactly. And I'm happy to work with you guys from that avenue. That's just another hat that I wear. But definitely not the right street tree.
All right, Scott, one of the things that we brought up at the CDE meeting, actually years ago we brought it up, was the way we trim the trees. Okay, do we thin the trees, or we just trim them up to 12 feet on the street side and 8 feet above the sidewalk? Is that all we're doing, or what?
I could speak about this from the perspective of the arborist for an hour and bore the crap out of all you guys, and I really don't want to do that. But my general recommendation is the larger the tree, like the live oak trees, park trees, areas like that, thinning is prescription based, meaning that it's not necessarily we're gonna go through all the live oak trees and thin them, because that's not necessarily the best perspective. In other examples, and I'm kind of getting into brittle wood versus fibrous wood. In a fibrous wood example, again, specific kinds of trees, and I won't get into those, they are conditioned and made through nature to withstand the wind sail effect. They actually move and flex and do what they need to do to withstand really Category 4, Category 5 winds. So again, very prescription based, and I'm happy to discuss that, but I don't want to say ad hoc that, yeah, we need to go out and thin all the trees, because that's not necessarily the best approach to it.
Okay. I thought you said you weren't going to bore them.
Well, sorry. Again, I can do this all night.
But you will see, such as Reserve Park up in North Village, we walked it today. There's some pine trees that will have to come down. Are you getting those when the other crew comes in?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're not a hazard, but if you see tags on trees or flags, red ribbons, orange ribbons, there's a reason for it, and those trees will be coming out.
Todd, can you introduce the new Davey? I haven't met him.
Scott, he was here last month. Scott Stinson. He took Rick's place, so he's the general manager.
Yes, sir.
He's been doing a fantastic job. He was here a whole week and a half, and then Irma hit, so he's been really kicked in the shins a few times already.
Scott, can I get your number or contact before you?
You certainly can. Yes, I would give you business.
So, as you, I guess we can go into the landscape updates, all right?
Unless there's any other hurricane.
No, let's go landscape.
I have one question, is that it sounds like, I think everything up until the storm was great. I think the immediate aftermath of the storm was great. I think on our end, the CROA end, we were slow the last couple of weeks. I saw a lot more people from the C&D side than staffing on ours. Is there a question about, because to me, if it's an issue about money, that I think the board supports spending the extra money to get the community cleaned up faster. Was there a concern about not having enough money, or what?
No, maintenance staff went along with their normal routines after they got the facilities open, because that's, those jobs still have to go on. The expectation on my end was not to use maintenance staff to cut down trees, and because we really don't have the resources to do that. Davey was brought in, New Leaf was brought in to handle those type of areas, one area at a time. So if the expectation is that we need to or want to have anybody and everybody cleaning up, can certainly do that.
I'm not speaking as much as that. I'm just speaking like, say, if we need an extra crew from Davey, was there a concern that, I think the board would support spending the money. Was it the money the issue, or was it just you didn't have the people, or?
Well, neither. Basically, what we did is we sat as a group and discussed how many people we were going to bring in, what outside resources. I brought people down from Chantilly, Virginia, and Montgomery County, Maryland. So I brought an additional 8 people down. But what I don't want to have from, again, I don't want to say it's wasteful to throw an army out here, but there are certain considerations in terms of resident effect that, frankly, I'm very happy with what we did in terms of no disruptions to traffic, no additional damage, no real complaints from loud chipper perspective and chainsaw perspective, and I hate to say the word reactionary, but very systematic in our approach. Todd and I met a dozen times and discussed how we were going to strategically move through the areas to get it cleaned up as fast as possible. And frankly, I'm very happy with where we're at in terms of cleanup and our expedient response. And I know that's easy to say after the fact, and it doesn't necessarily represent the general feelings of the community throughout the process, but really, I don't want to add danger to an already dangerous situation, if that kind of makes sense.
I had two quick questions. One is the removal of the debris by the dog park. That's the staging area up there where everyone's been throwing in the logs and everything. What is the plan on that and when?
I have asked the county if that could be part of their removal, and they have some FEMA questions that they're working through, so we have to determine whether or not we want to do it ourselves and get it out quicker, or if we want to try and wait and work through the FEMA process.
And is that-
There's also a big pile over at the ISSA building, too.
That's the CDD's part.
That's, was that CDDs or ECDDs up there?
It was, we just had a meeting.
Because I thought Gerard was putting stuff up by the dog park also, of our stuff.
No, the CDD wanted to have their own pile, so that they approached TCC and got permission to utilize that facility up there, or that land over there, and they've been dumping.
So then, let me get this straight for a minute. CDD uses Gerard. ECDD uses Davy, though.
Correct.
Where's Davy's ECD stuff going?
It is also going into the ECDD building. When you go, and I don't know the definitions.
You're talking about up by the dog park?
Well, no, not right by the dog park where I'm dumping celebration stuff.
Okay.
Up past the dog park, past their building, they have a maintenance area where we've been dumping up there.
Okay.
To be very honest, they don't, from our perspective, they don't have very much stuff from our perspective. Nothing even remotely close to comparison of CROA.
And if we need to do this ourselves to get it out of that dog park area, is it best to bring a chipper in and just throw all that into a chipper?
No, sir. In this perspective, what we would talk about is bringing in several large grapple trucks, probably two 27-yard grapple trucks hooked together. So essentially it has a box that the grapple can reach both of them. It can be done fairly expediently to get all that stuff out.
Do you have a ballpark cost on something like that?
Off the top of my head,
Okay.
It's impossible to say.
I don't know what our decision may be, but if you can get that with Steve.
Sure. No, absolutely.
In the near future.
We will absolutely talk about that.
And you're continuing up here, Todd, you got more to say or not?
On the landscape side,
landscaping.
if you have tree questions.
This is a hurricane one, just in general. And I wanted to say how much I liked it. In your report here about Irma, you have a section that says, we didn't do this, we found out that we should have done this, and we will do it, it's entered into our new plan. So I like that corrective action of doing an after-action report to yourself as what to put back in your plan. I totally commend that. Thank you.
Thank you. I will say, add on to that, Scott and I discussed this today. Part of our hurricane plan really doesn't cover after the storm. It says, we'll get it cleaned up, but it doesn't set the expectations as to what the process is, what doesn't get done during that process. So we'll add that in.
And there's almost a triage that needs to happen.
Yes. Let me say also, though, every storm's different. 2004 had different damage than what Irma did. So, while the protocol's important and what we want to get back up and running first, different damage may cause us to reship that.
But setting the priorities, such as playgrounds first, since they're not, the majority of them are not fenced, keeping the hazards away from the kids, things like that, we'll try and add in there. Landscaping. So you can beat up on Scott now that he's the new guy. Obviously, Irma's set him back. They were getting up to a good constant speed of getting weed control under control. Turf maintenance was improving. And then the storm hit. So we're 3 weeks into it now, which is a whole detail cycle. So they're having to start all over again. Any preventative weed control they did basically got washed through and didn't do much for us or for them. So, could speak on the rest of that.
Basically, guys, just to elaborate on what I just talked about, we are through the tree process. We are completed with that. My team, not counting the out of town guys, out of state guys, have begun maintenance operations in full swing on Monday. They will complete a full cycle of those maintenance operations this week. Again, I would love to say that it's going to be back next week. It is going to take probably an additional 2 weeks on top of that to get it to where where we need to be, especially coming into the October season. But that is in conjunction, obviously, with the storm. And again, I can beat that drum all day. I hate to say hurricane, but we are assessing the areas that need to be assessed, service areas specifically. There's a lot of, I won't say a lot, there are many deficiencies that need to be corrected through surgical type pruning, not necessarily using the same type of plan for each individual building. I think that's happened a lot in the past where we say if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander in this perspective. That's not really the case. We need to be very prescriptive in how we do it, and we are going through that process now to complete that.
Would you ever consider hiring subcontractors like Newly, for example, to do some of your work?
I'll let them speak to that.
We have. I informed Scott when he's getting way behind on things, especially the new landscaping that was just installed at Downey, North Village. We're supplementing that and deducting it from Davy's bill. So it's not costing the residents any more money. Scott, although is not thrilled about it, they didn't happen overnight, so it's to be expected. North Village will be done this weekend by New Leaf to get it back under control. There's lots of weeds in the new landscape there, which doesn't set well with any of us, so that will be back under control.
Okay. Additionally, just if I can say it, I'd like to thank both of these guys. They've been very helpful for bringing me, and Steve and Susan too, for bringing me up to speed with everything. It's been a process, but we are getting it identified, and we are, I'm going to be reporting back to them, reporting back to you guys, and getting back to the standard of contract.
I just also wanted to mention in using subcontractors, we've already begun doing that in several of our service areas. The other thing we're doing in the service areas, as Scott is newer to our account, is we started today. It was a wonderful hot day spending time together in an open nev, but identifying in the service areas, especially our older landscaping where the enhancements have not occurred yet, the different cut lines and how those areas should look based on community standards and also on owner feedback. So Scott had a chance to look at a lot of the actual architectural buildings and the different layouts and long-term planning for what we're going to be doing for the rest of this year. Some of those agenda items are on your action items this evening. So he had an opportunity to see some of those. And then the next step for service areas with Davey is going to be going out and he's going to be evaluating with his crews on all the things we talked about today and in several emails over the last week. And then we're going to schedule a day every Wednesday to touch base, and it might just be looking at one area, or it may be, let's go look at 4 areas, and the idea is every Wednesday the improvements will be noticed, and then hopefully there won't be a need for us to bring in any supplemental landscapers. The other thing that we've implemented between Todd and myself is when there is a joint situation that we need to address, as in Spring Lake, one of the problems we've been having is securing good zoysia sod. So it hasn't been a lack of identifying where the need is. It's been able to find zoysia. The weather has not been accommodating us. So Todd and I have subcontracted out with New Leaf to address both the CROA areas where there's no zoysia and also, or zoysia needs to be replaced, and also some of the service areas where there's easement sod, et cetera, that's been struggling. So he's been able to do that, and so he'll go out and reapprove the count for the zoysia, and then he'll be able to come out and just do it in over a 2-day time frame.
Anything else?
Any further questions? All right, Steve.
The last thing I want to say about the hurricane, just a thank you to my staff. At 96 hours out, when we're not really sure where the storm's going, we send them home to start getting their stuff prepared. So they went home and prepared their houses, and then they came back here and they focused on this community. So I want to thank them for all their efforts they put in. They really worked hard. I know a lot of the maintenance guys leading up to the storm put in long days of securing those facilities. So thank you guys for everything.
Thank you very much, Steve. Also for you for the work you did in the emergency management of this whole thing.
Thank you.
And you're a pretty good sand shoveler too. I saw you up there. It was pretty good.
I was sore for 4 days after, so I'm out of shape.
No, you're just getting old.
Tell me about getting in better shape.
Just getting old.
Yeah. The last item from the management report, we want to talk quickly about the roofing projects that have been going on in town. And Susan's going to speak a little bit about that. And we have Jeff from William John and Associates here also. He's our owner's rep, helping us oversee this project.
Right. William John and Associates is the third-party engineer that we hired originally back when we did the Academy Road Meeting House Green project. And if you notice, we were concerned about the chimneys. All the chimneys stayed on during the hurricane. Hallelujah. As we got ready to do another $800,000 roof job in 3 of our service areas, we hired William John, Jeff Mansfield, and Doug Wallace to build that scope for us. And they actually took, and we gave them the names of roofers that I know through CAI. They knew some roofers, and they took it out to bid for us and came back and brought so that it was apples to apples. We have had some challenges with the roofing projects in South Village, Savannah Square, and Charleston Place. And up until a couple of weeks ago, we had been struggling. And you're welcome to come up, Doug and Jeff, if you'd like to answer questions. But now we've got a plan in place, and they've agreed to it, and they've been out for the last 2 days looking at those ongoing leaks that we've had, and they're determining whether or not the roof was installed properly. And so they're going to, I think we have about 25 of 85 units with leaks that have been ongoing. The owners are frustrated, management's frustrated, the roofers are frustrated, the engineers are frustrated, so we've got this plan in place. So they're going out trying to determine was the roof installed properly, what's causing the leak. When it's something due to the roofer, they're going to give them a detailed plan of how to resolve that, and the roofer's going to have 5 days to get it resolved. So that's where we stand at this point in time. And they've been out Tuesday and Wednesday, most of the days.
And Jeff has a spreadsheet that has each one of the items that need to be addressed with a place for him to sign off. So he's going to put his signature whether it's completed, and if it's not completed, what needs to be done. So for us to close this project out, we really need the owners rep. We need Jeff to say, yes, it's done to specs and to the contract, or no, it's not. And then we can proceed forward with getting the roofing company to complete the work that needs to be done.
So in your estimation, how many days before we finish this project?
Well, I believe, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, you're to be done with the inspections by the end of this week. And then we'll give the roofing company through the end of next week to have all the roofing repairs completed.
Can I give you a quick synopsis of what the problems have been? 99% of the problems revolve around one detail that occurs on about 80 locations on the roofs. So it's a flashing detail where they did not properly tie in the very bottom shingle, and water is actually running down and hitting the shingle and then spreading out. And most of the leaks are in the same locations in every unit. Now, the problem has been we wrote the specs, and then we do one in-process inspection while the roof's going on. Then we come back and do a final inspection. Well, as you know, unless you're standing there all day, every day, roofers will do exactly what you expect them to do while you're standing there watching, and you're taking your inspection, which may take 2 hours. When you leave, you have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. And on this one detail that we've identified, we're going back on every unit. We're going to detail, they come back on every, not just the ones that are leaking, but every dormer on the entire property to double check. We'll check it and we'll make sure it's done right. But there are other minor problems that are some of the leaks that came about. The roofers would like to attribute to maybe hurricane damage, not hurricane damage. It was a problem that was going to eventuate a year or 2 years from now, but it took a volume of rain to show it right now. It is no way related to hurricane damage. It's workmanship. And we'll make sure that it's squared away. Jeff has visited every unit, been in every unit, talked to every owner that's got a leak and has got a detail. He's physically looked at it. Where we are is we have a contract to protect and represent Celebration. Number one, to make sure we get the highest quality product and installation. Number two, that all the contractors were bidding on exactly the same thing. We didn't have apples and oranges going in. But the process itself is difficult to manage, and if you get one or two things going wrong, it's hard to go back and identify them. We have been back over the roofs and verified that the nailing patterns are correct, that the shingles are sealed properly at the eaves and the rakes and all the things you have to do. But this flashing detail was problematic, and it'll be fixed. Jeff is going to issue a list tomorrow, the next day, 2 days, you'll have it out, and we will have the roofing contractors. They're responsible to fix this. There are also some problems with guttering and fastening of guttering. We have a full list of all of that we will either demand the roofing contractor fix, or we'll get somebody else to fix it and back charge the roofing contractors. Simple as that.
Yeah, one concern I have is that now we're getting into the dry season, and some of these problems probably aren't going to show up again until next summer.
Well, that's what
you talked about closing this thing.
Show up next week.
Well, it says going to.
I think
we're going to rain next week.
Well, they're not going to have it fixed by next week.
Well, the good news is that with the volume of rain that we've had during the hurricane, we've had a very good test. We were very fortunate that we didn't lose shingles, because people think because they're new, they ought to be more impervious to storms. They're actually less, because they haven't. It takes time for the shingles to seal properly and get really tight. So a lot of time, the shingles that have been on a year are much more impervious to damage than ones that have been on 6 months.
We're not going to know if the fixes work until next summer.
Well,
you're talking about closing this thing out. We can't close this thing out.
The way the contracts are written, they're still responsible. They're still responsible. They've got a 2-year look back, workmanship. So we're going back. We're not just looking at leaks. We're looking at the total scope all the way back.
I'm sorry. Will you, after they fix this defect that evidently hits 99% of the units that way, do any water intrusion tests then, taking hoses up there and running them down?
We really shouldn't need to if we ascertain that they're fixed properly. Okay? I mean, because a lot of times water tests are directionally driven, and you can't adequately get up there with a hose and make it leak. Some leaks emanate from windows, some from siding, some from flashing leaks, but we didn't see anything in the field of the shingles. We haven't to this day seen anything wrong. What we would like to see happen, we give a bid to you guys, and it's to write specs, and then it's to do in-process inspection, then it's to do a final inspection. You expect that the final inspection, you may find one or two things wrong, but you write your final inspection and then you detail. Our inspections have been dramatic in what we found, and what we're asking is that we're now doing more work that we never anticipated doing, that we shouldn't have to do, but we want to be paid going forward as a back charge to the roofing contractors. They're the ones that's supposed to be paying. That's why you hold a retainage until the work is done. But that's...
Can we get a list of the deficiencies?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we will... You want to talk about your list, Jeff? I don't want to cut you out because you've done all the work on this.
We've covered it.
Come on up, Jeff.
Come up here.
You have to be at the microphone.
Oh, no way.
Doug's done a fine job. I met with 19 homeowners over the last 2 days, and what we did find is exactly what he said. It is a detail that, I mean, I started walking into the house and I said, how about you let me go show you where the leak is? I knew where they were, because it was the same thing in all the houses. But I think what was important for the owners to understand is that we were going to document what we found, and we're going to give Steve and Susan all of the ammunition that they need to hold the roofer accountable to make it right. And that's really what we're going to do in this report. So
there's one other thing too. In the meeting that we had, Susan and Teresa and Todd, one of the statements the roofing, we brought the two lower roofing contractors back to interview. And the roofing contractor who got the job in the interview process said, because we were concerned about bushes being broken and plants, and made a definitive statement that, hey, we will replace anything that's broken. So all of that needs to be part of our scope. Because they made the statement and they are responsible for running the contract. So.
And that was one thing that did come up in some of my meetings. So if you give me the addresses, I'll do it, whatever. But let's maybe go back to them one more time and find out if there's anything else that needs to be covered. And I can get with you and give you the ones that I've got notes on who says their stuff was whatever. So, but we're committed to.
So the only question I have is for those units where the owners are either traveling or not in town for the summer. So we may not know of the damage that's occurred, but it sounds like the nature of the problem is consistent across units.
Absolutely. So if they fix the servers on the same spot or air property.
Right.
And I'm sure there's some, but I think I met with six property managers or whoever that were before exactly what you were talking about, people that weren't there.
As long as that's covered.
Yeah, my question is that, when we do bids and we hire people, is that, the first thing we do before we would even consider them is to ensure that they are a very high quality, great reputation, 5-star company. And this sounds like incredibly shoddy work. Is this, is this a 5-star company? Has this company not had issues at all like this in the past, or?
We've never done a project with them in the past. This is the first time they've ever worked for us. They're a large company. All companies that bid were large.
I had one of the company, one gentleman today say that he had done his research and they looked like a wonderful company and he didn't find anything that he would suspect. And I've been a contractor for 20 years until I purchased Doug's company. But I think what it is, it's kind of the nature of the beast. Everybody has struggled over the last few years, and now everybody's busy, but everybody's scared to expand, so they're trying to do more with less people, and I think that is exactly, I think this company took on more work than they had, and they didn't have the proper supervision or, skilled laborers with them.
But it sounds like, it's a big company, but we didn't even know what we're getting. And it's like, there are plenty of very good roofing companies. I know they cost a little extra money, but I think our residents would prefer quality, reputation, experience, rather than bringing on somebody that you guys have never worked before. So,
hindsight's always 20/20 too. If this company showed itself to be a 5-star company and then it wasn't.
But it didn't. They never worked with us before. They had no idea what they were.
But Paul, you really can't go with that necessarily. I used one of the largest companies in Central Florida 5 years ago when I re-roofed my house. Had to have them back out 3 different times for leaks. So,
large is not necessarily
sometimes you get it done well.
The answer, but in a project this big, you can't afford to have the timetable stretch over a huge amount of time, and so that eliminated a lot of quality smaller roofing contractors, and in fact a lot of those guys, especially in Central Florida, would not bid the project because of the complexity and their experience, and they knew the potential problems, and they looked at the landscaping, and then they looked at the pitch of the roofs, and they went, it's too steep, we're going to get debris all over the place, we don't want to handle it. That's what we saw a lot of. I mean, because they were very difficult, and I'm not making an excuse for the roofing contractor, I'm just saying they're very difficult roofs to re-roof because you're limited in the way you can take your debris out, where it's going to fall, guttering problems. The gutters were not written into the specs, but we added the gutters as we did our walkthrough, our pre-bid. We added, but they weren't uniform. Some homeowners had already installed gutters, and we tried to equalize and bring everything up through the association to make it as uniform as possible. But that meant adding 6 feet of gutter here and 10 feet here, and we didn't have enough downspouts in the back, and we tried to add more, and there still aren't enough in some areas, so we're going back and looking at that. It's problematic as hell.
And to your point, Doug's brother owns one of the finest roofing companies in the state, and he wouldn't bid the project for those very reasons that he's talking about.
We had the same issues with the County Row Meeting House Green. If you remember, it was delayed by quite a few months because we had to take it back out to bid. We just didn't get any responders to bid.
Town Center couldn't find anybody because the pitch of the roof was too steep.
Yeah. When I was in the roofing business with my brother, which I was in it for 15 years, I've been consulting for 25, all my shingle men were 50 years old. And they'd look at something like this, and they'd go, I did that when I was 20. I'm not getting on roofs. And I finally couldn't do steam roofs. But I'm here to tell you, I've been doing this 25 years. I grew up in the Winter Park. I'm not moving. My reputation is my life. I'm here to protect you guys. We can get this done right. If these clowns don't measure up, don't have people down there do it, we will get somebody else. It'll be done.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we'll still be here next year when it rains again.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Steve, does that conclude the management report?
The management.
So finally, after 2 hours, we get to the action items. Okay, tab number 1. Motion to approve the Integra Realty Resources to complete a commercial property appraisal in the amount of $3,250. This is a capital improvement fund.
Motion to approve.
Any discussion?
Just for anyone in the audience, this is parcel D on the Civic Corridor to have the appraisal done there.
Okay. So,
Any other discussion?
all right, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Tab number 2, the motion to appoint Michael Smith to the Governance Committee.
Nay, no, I'm kidding.
May I have a motion, please?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
And a second.
I'll second it.
Second from Leonard. Okay, any discussion?
Do we have any recommendations? The only qualifications that he's a homeowner.
I did send the application to the chair of the governance committee, and I did have him, the volunteer, give a little bit of background on himself, and Robert was pleased. So the governance committee recommends this new one.
Do we not normally see that?
No, yes, I will put it through the governance chair whenever we have a volunteer that's applying to the committee.
Because all we have is this form that says that he's a homeowner.
Do we have an official governance chair?
Robert LaFlame.
Oh, right.
Yes.
But not a liaison.
Sometimes they'll attach a resume, sometimes not.
All right, so further discussion? Oh. Pardon me?
I already...
It's already seconded. He just said call the question.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tab number 3, motion to approve the guideline for landscape as recommended by the ARC.
Motion to
Okay.
approve.
So,
Wait.
Wait, I haven't got to you yet.
We're not to discussion yet.
All
Motion
right.
to approve.
Second.
And now discussion.
okay. So now I can give you a brief update of the guideline changes. Of course, these were, the original ones were done when most of them were done, which was 2009, 10, 11, right around there. And in general, over the last few years when we've been revising the guidelines, it's been to make them more user-friendly for homeowners, abbreviate them more. There was a lot of narrative in the original ones, which were great, but we find that homeowners can use them better if there's less to read through, right? Because we're all busy. It's important to kind of get to the crucial items and make it easier for homeowners to navigate and find the answer to their questions. And of course, there's also some things in here that we find over time. Questions come up. There's no answers in the original pattern book or in the guidelines. So these additions have been changed per the committee. So that one part was about just deleting a lot of narrative. There was also the deletion of specific plant material for different architectures. It was also specified that tiers of differing plants are required. We see that throughout Celebration, but a lot of homeowners don't really see that and understand. So it's kind of to just confirm that when you do have a house, you do need to have tiers of different plants. Plants in pots are not permitted in landscape unless approved as part of a landscape design by ARC. That's allowing homeowners to incorporate architectural pots with plants in their landscape as long as the ARC looks at that as part of the design. But it still keeps that part in there where homeowners tend to put pots of plants and just stick them in the yard or the bed, you know. It kind of just keeps that rule out of there to keep the beds clean. We've also added, or the ARC added, certain stones may be permitted in areas where sunlight is limited, as well as plant and sod maintenance. For example, around mechanical equipment, between houses, etc. So, you know, that's always been one of those things where gravel and stones have not really been something you see in Celebration, but, you know, there's those areas where you just need it because sod isn't going to grow, and we don't want bare ground. So it's more, it's allowing homeowners to utilize that as a good drainage alternative in areas where you need it around equipment, more in the private zone, not in the front beds. Canopy trees must be a minimum of 6 feet from any property line, structure, or edge of any hardscape. That's always been in there, but it's just clarifying that ornamental trees, which are smaller, can be, you know, closer, a little bit closer, like 3 feet, and it defines what size an ornamental tree is. Canopy trees are your really big ones that create shade. Ornamentals are your smaller ones, like some crepe myrtles and holly and things like that. Alternatives to sod, synthetic turf. That's a big one. As you know, that was approved for private zones in Spring Lake. This is just putting it on the agenda to allow in the private zone only, and as long as it's visually screened with a privacy fence or landscape. And again, that's because a lot of homeowners, you know, with sunlight and rain and drainage, that, you know, they can use that alternative to sod where it's hard to grow in areas and you don't want a lot of muddy areas for your family, you know, in your living area outside. Mulch must be maintained around trees and plants within beds. Red mulch and other unnaturally colored mulches are not permitted. That's just reconfirming. A lot of people like to use red mulch. It's always been a standard in Celebration not to use it, so it's kind of specified in here. Lets people know. Foundation walls, including porches, shall have shrubs along the front as well as the side. That's clarifying that that area around your porch, at the front facade, when you're from the street, needs to have shrubs around it. That's part of the aesthetic view of Celebration, that we try to maintain that landscape element that complements the house. Hedges within the front yard, front facade and side street facade shall be no more than 3.5 feet. That's trying to help control some of those shrub hedges out there that you see that are getting so crazy, and there's no, you know, the argument comes back, well, where's the rule on how big those can be? So
Susanna, let me just interrupt you.
Yeah.
Has everybody read that? It's at the back of the packets. And okay, so all in favor?
Oh, you don't need me to go through it. Awesome.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Cool.
So
You
put
can
it up
just
for
tell me
30
ahead of
days.
time. Number, you know, when I'm at number 3.
No, my concern is that, you know, are we going to start seeing, you know, a lot of, so it seems to me this is going to result in a lot more landscape letters to residents and whatever. Do you anticipate that it will increase the amount?
No,
it seems
not
like
at all.
It seems like it's more detailed than we had in the past.
I would think
in terms of
It actually loosens up.
Yes, the new guidelines opening up more alternatives to residents as far as trying to maintain their yards in a neat and orderly manner, and also defining some things that they just didn't understand before, is where does the mulch go? What color can I use? Can I use stones in this difficult area? Can I use synthetic sods? Can I use pots? Yes, you can, but here's how, you know, and things like that. And also, it went down from 11 pages to 4. So, you know, that helps.
That's good. That's what I want.
So, a clarifying question. For those items that are substantively different from the past, like minimum of 6 feet from the property line, or hedges, maximum such, for something that's already planted elsewhere, is that grandparented in?
Yeah, grandfathered in.
Grandfathered in? Or,
yes.
I was trying to be gender neutral.
Oh, okay.
or hedges if they're already 12 feet tall?
Yes,
Now
unfortunately.
they have to be brought down to 3.5?
Yeah, unfortunately, the guideline
So-
applies to, work going forward. That's why we keep a lot of historical photos at Town Hall, so we
So
can
if
always
it's
look
already
back and...
12 feet, that is okay?
Yeah, as long as it's maintained in a neat,
I'm not-
orderly manner.
Well, but a hard cut is sometimes good for a bike order.
Right.
very orderly.
But I'm just thinking if something's planted, I have to move it over 6 inches to be in compliance. No, that's not the case.
No, sir.
Okay, just clarifying. Thank you.
Suzanne, on the trees, minimum of 8 feet above sidewalks and 12 feet above alley right-of-ways. That's on the personal, for the resident, right, not the CDD trees?
No, the
'cause they have to
CDD
be
tree
higher.
cuts to a
Yeah.
different level.
They have to be higher, yeah. So that's just for the, it's like, okay, I don't know
Yeah.
if that needs to be specified.
And that's
People
based,
get confused.
well, when you ask homeowners to go ahead and trim their trees back, they said, well, how much? How far? Well, is that
No,
good
it's
enough?
good. But
Oh,
I'm
okay.
afraid they're going to think, well, the CDD tree is, I'm afraid they get confused.
Oh, I got you. So specify
maybe
that
specify
on the
the-
property only.
That's all.
Definitely, yeah.
So now you're going to post this on the front porch for 30 days?
Yes, after the board approves them, and we'll try to get a lump in this year like we did last year, and then that whole group will get posted, and a hard copy has to go out to every homeowner in the community, and after 30 days, if there's not a majority that's opposed to the guideline, it goes into effect.
So our motion today, or our motion tonight is actually just to allow you to do this then? We're not
Yes, well,
approving
you're
it.
approving, right.
And then once it finally goes into effect, assuming that's the case, an article in the Celebration News for November, December, January?
Yes.
Something in the Friday.
I'll put it in my
Last
calendar.
two. Things have been opened up a little bit.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Excellent. With this same guideline, though, I'll just ask if you looked at it.
Yes.
This is the new format for the plant guide. We added pictures, and then you saw the list of everything else we did.
Generic name?
This isn't the approved information per se. This is just the format we're going to go with. So it'll carry over the information we had before, and then just kind of little tweaks here and there.
It's a lot nicer looking.
And
you.
will things like this be updated in the new homeowners packet/flash drive?
Well, the flash drive gives a reference to all the guidelines and where to find them, because there's so many. So it does give that information that's constantly posted on the front porch for homeowners to use, and we have copies at Town Hall.
Okay, good.
And you chose the 3-gallon size just because was affordable?
That is the minimum size you have to use to install plants. I mean, obviously, if you have a hedge that's, 4 feet tall, you don't want to put a miniature plant, and the ARC would specify that in your application, in your approval.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's move on to tab number 5 then.
Actually, we're
Four?
Tab 4.
I'm sorry, tab 4. Motion to approve the guideline for solar as recommended by ARC.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
David?
Second.
Discussion?
Do you have any questions?
Sorry.
Do we have anybody have any discussion?
My only question is, and I'm sure you've done this already, is checked either with our attorney or whatever to make sure CAI, whatever, make sure we're not in the foul of either the state solar or the federal solar laws.
I did have.
I didn't see any conflict in there, but I'm not an expert on those.
I did have the attorney review it, and the changes. One change that was made was based on his recommendation.
I just have one suggestion. Can you, at a future date, look at just doing a generic or general approval for Tesla roofs? Because they have like just a standard Tesla.
It's a brand?
No, well,
Yeah.
Tesla, it's a photovoltaic cell.
Okay. Okay, very good. Yes, we can definitely look into
Quite
this.
expensive, though.
It's
Okay.
expensive.
There's a lot of technology coming out there on roofs, the solar shingles.
Well, actually, Tesla is the only maker of it right now.
It's their own.
Okay.
This is, what it is instead of a regular roofing shingle, you put these photovoltaic shells up there. They look not similar. They
It's a nice looking.
look the size of the shingle, so it makes it have that sort of appearance. But they're all photovoltaic cells, And so you don't have to have the raised solar on the roof when you have that.
Okay, very good. As a side note, Dave Finnegan reached out to me right before the meeting, and he was looking at alternative brands with different colors for his roof before he appealed. But he also expressed interest in maybe forming a committee of homeowners that are like-minded on looking at new technology out there and kind of doing researching and presenting new ideas, for the community on energy items and sustainability.
I move that Eric take that committee.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But that's his.
I'm sorry. We
Oh,
still
yes,
have a
I
motion
told
on
him
the
I
table
would
to
bring
vote.
it up tonight.
He definitely needs a new roof. I haven't seen it, but yeah, thank you.
This isn't really for you, but it's on this topic. It relates to Todd.
Todd?
Can we, this is for homeowners. You don't need to answer now, Todd, but just, but as we look at opportunities throughout Celebration for the CROA-owned facilities, can we also be looking at some of these opportunities? Whether it's for heating a pool, and that's the cost efficiencies there, or whatever. Can we just put that on your agenda? It's probably already there.
I think we've already talked about 851, haven't we?
Make it part of the 3 bids.
All right, so.
Thank you.
Any further?
So was the approval conditioned on me adding something to this about roofs?
No, there's
Just
nothing.
No, just if you could look at it.
researching? Okay.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people.
Okay, wonderful.
And let's go to
Motion to
vote.
approve, brief second, we just go to vote.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Tab number 5.
I'd like to make the motion to combine, well, actually, I don't need to do it. I'm going to make a motion to approve tab 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 14, which are all, you might as well come up because they're all with service area approvals of things.
Second.
Okay, and then the discussion. So Teresa, go ahead.
It's all your landscape.
It's everything landscape.
Do you have any specific questions on you?
So do we need this?
I have specific on one.
Sure.
Okay.
Give me a second, let me find out which one it was here.
I'll just go really briefly, very briefly, just that,
Well, just hold on for a second. If Leonard can come up with his,
Actually,
we're going to vote.
I have actually two quick questions. One is on tab 14, there was an add-on to the
shutters.
to the shutters of a dollar amount. And I looked back up in the bid from the other bids on that, and they said take off and removal. So they'll put the new shutters back on.
Correct,
They'll take
yes.
the old ones off. That's not no additional cost in there anyway. The company's already committed to that. And my other one is give me just 1 second here, because I know Jack wants to vote.
I do.
Oh, no, I've already got this one answered the other day. Never mind, I'm fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All.
I'm all
You're
done. Well, okay then, all right, I'm just gonna sit right back.
Now we're
down.
to tab-
Where did you leave
Tab
Ed?
10.
Tab 10. Motion to approve the purchase of the DJI Mavic Pro Fly drone for an amount not to exceed $2,000. This is a CROA operating expense.
Motion approved.
And a second, please.
I'll second it, only if I get to use the language.
All right, so now discussion.
I have a serious objection to this. Go ahead.
The purpose for the drone is not to just be off flying in the countryside. Events, JR's been asking to utilize one for events, post and during, for marketing efforts, things like that. My purpose, or our purpose as operations, is to do inspections. So when, for instance, roof inspections, when the inspector says they're done, we can fly up and take a look, and the homeowner calls in and says, my gutter's still leaking. We can find out why it is using a drone, because currently we don't go up 2.5, 3 stories on a ladder. Just not real sensible for us to do that. Drone would take care of that for us. They're utilized all the time now for inspections by municipalities.
This for our property?
Service areas and CROA property. only.
So we're not talking about doing resident inspections with these?
No.
Okay.
No. I've looked up several different policies because I know it's going to be, controversial, say, or questionable because of drones and privacy and things like that. To be able to fly a drone, you have to have FCC license. So we would require that. Whoever wants to fly it, probably 2 or 3 of us. What else was there? There's policies that we can put in place that will cover any privacy issues you might have, notifying residents that we'll be flying in the area. So we'll try and cover every base so it's not objectionable. But that's up to y'all to approve it from that point.
I just, this afternoon, I was speaking with Jack in an earlier meeting, and he actually has a drone overhead of his house looking at all the roof tiles that are missed. You want to show the rest of the board up that way anyway?
Yeah, show the covenants. Show Susanna that.
Yeah. No, she can't see it. No, but I think it is a valuable resource, okay? I would almost offer it on a paying basis to residents as well, if we have spare time for it.
I don't know if we want to get off into that, but I do agree that not having to send a worker up 3 stories and then climb a steep roof pitch, which you can't get. You heard the roofer. You can't get people that will work on those roofs.
I can see where we could be using that also with the condos for their covenants.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
So my friend got a drone, very expensive drone, and he flew it and it crashed and burned the first day, and that was that.
There's insurance policies available on them.
Are we getting insurance policy?
Yes.
Okay, I'm still completely against this toy and drone. Sorry.
Because I'm not going to promise that I won't crash it. No.
We've lived 20 years without it. I don't see the point. I think that they're overpriced. I think they're coming down in price very quickly, and maybe looking at down the road. But I think it's expensive. I think the insurance is obviously needed because they're very unpredictable, and I don't trust what it'll be used for. Sorry.
Have you looked at hiring the use of a drone from someone who already owns one and is certified? For example, for events, those are seldom. You could hire it for an hour and pay
There's a guy in town, he'll let you
$100.
use it any time. He'll even take the pictures for you.
We have looked into that. I know JR has utilized for like the dog park for that photography work. When we don't like being bound by other people's schedules to get things accomplished quickly for residents that are having issues with their homes. So we think to deploy it and go out and do it ourselves is better for all residents. I understand concerns about pricing and everything else. It's, what was it, 15? We're asking for 2,000, I believe.
$1,790.
What's the insurance, and yet what's the insurance cost?
I have talked to Lou Byron, who's our insurance agent, and he's given us a 4-page questionnaire, which I've given to Todd to fill out, and he says it'll be incremental, it'll be minimal, the insurance cost.
We're needing $100.
Right, and we're
So that
also...
covers if if it gets broken or whatever, we get a new one.
No.
Their insurance.
That's liability in case we crash it into.
So liability.
Yeah, if we crash it through somebody's window or hurt somebody.
But
that's another issue.
in terms of it breaking or whatever, do you feel pretty confident that I guess we don't want to spend money and then 2 months come back and say,
No.
well,
Through the company we want to purchase it through, they do offer a 1-year insurance plan for the drone itself. We think that's very wise to purchase. It's $149.
The question is how this is going to be perceived by residents who are already concerned about covenants. And as we will see in the survey results, we still see lots of concerns about overreach and how will this...
This isn't going to be used for residential covenants.
How it's going to be perceived by residents.
And again, I had several cars on it because of the board packet, and there was absolutely beautiful photos of everything with the drone. There was absolutely not one word about what it was for, what department it was for. There was nothing. You guys have your board packet. There was nothing.
There's no rationale.
There was nothing for it. It was just a lot of pictures of a drone. I went, there we go, a new toy. But maybe in the future, when you guys include that in the board packet, please tell us what it's for. I'm calling Steve. Steve, what's the drug for? There should be some written explanation when you're asking for an expenditure from the board. And I just think it was very last minute, and I just don't see the rush on a drone. Sorry.
Okay, is everyone through discussing? If so, I'll call the question.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
All right, 4-2. Debbie and David, nays. All right, that's approved.
Thank you.
All right, tab number 11, motion to approve to have CCMC send 12 service area intent to lien letters to owners delinquent as of 9/01 assessments. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tab number 12, motion to approve one service area homeowner request for $28.38 and one CROA homeowner request for
Motion
$29.50.
approved.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tab number 12B, motion to approve one payment plan.
Motion to approve.
Second? Discussion?
Only discussion is it meets the regular requirement we have for payment plans, so I'm good with it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I don't see a 12A. Did I miss something?
That was it.
A 12.
12 done.
12A
Oh,
was
12.
the
Oh,
12A was
I
B,
see.
or B was
homeowner
A.
request.
All right, tab number 13, motion to approve the release of ART survey email addresses for single program purpose use. Motion approved.
I will motion to approve that.
And a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion?
Actually, David, would you like to say a little bit about this?
I think it's self-explanatory in the packet. People volunteered to provide their survey addresses in the latest survey as an optional item, just required CROA board approval. So it came from the Celebration Foundation's Arts Forward initiative as a way to broaden respondents for their survey.
So we've already got approval from those folks to be able to share their emails. They've opted in.
Yes.
And they provided their email separate, so it may not be the email that JR has on file because we don't have access to those.
It's one-time use.
It's one purpose use.
Yeah.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tab number 15, motion to close the 851 building on October 7th, 2017 for the Fortune Yard Sale.
Wait. Where are you on?
15.
15.
We've already
Okay.
did 14.
Two issues. We have...
Wait, let's motion it first and then discuss it. So, a motion and a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, and then Debbie?
We have condo owners that will be renting tables out there where they're supposed to use the restroom, and the second issue is, I've worked that sale 3 times and I've cleaned it on my own. It's nice to have a second person here, that would be helpful. 2 people is all you really need. Also, they'll probably go to the pool, and that will be trash because it's even smaller restroom stalls. If they went to the South Village pool, they're going to go somewhere.
I think
You can't have
in
them
years
not-
past, we had used the gymnasiums bathrooms.
No,
but-
we use it right here. I've worked it.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
just say in years past.
In addition? Oh.
Yeah.
Jack, if I may, we will have restrooms. We'll have nice portalettes out in the parking lot for people to utilize during Fortune Yard Sale. The problem was last year, it's an influx of non-residents coming into the community for Fortune Yard Sale, and they just, quite frankly, destroy our bathrooms. In fact,
What's
we
the
had,
difference between that and Food Truck Friday?
quite frankly, we had feces that were spread on the walls last year, and it just drew us, I mean, it was a huge drain on our janitorial supplies, and you know, it's a residential resource that's being utilized by non-residents that just don't respect it the way that our residents do. So that's why we're requesting to close it. And we'll have porta potties available for those that are here at the 851 building.
How many will we have available?
I just think it's ridiculous.
We have 3
I'm there all
altogether.
day, so I need a place to go. Sorry.
We will have restrooms here. We're not shutting those down.
Did you have one person working the last event?
Well, we had the full staff from Parks and Recreation and Lifestyles. All
But I mean,
work.
in the building, there's one person usually behind the desk. Was there anyone else in the building?
I would have to go back and look and see what our scheduling was.
Would there be a problem with having whoever would be working that up there at the side door entrance there with a great big sign, CROA ID required for admittance? And then the residents could come in there by showing their CROA ID.
The only reason they're coming in is to use the restroom.
Yes.
We have restrooms. I go to porta potties all the time. I mean,
Are the
it's
porta
like,
potties handicapped
I don't like it, but I
Yes, they are.
I don't really care where I can go. I'm there from 6:30 till 3.
No, I was trying to make a midway range of this. I don't mind porta potties out there because I won't be over here to use them. So, and Tim will go anywhere.
All right, so
Are
any
you gonna
further?
start, wait, is this going to be a trend we're going to use for Food Truck Friday too? And residents can't come into the restaurant?
Food Truck Friday doesn't have the same impact on the building as Porching Yard Sales. Just a huge amount of non-residents coming in.
Okay, so it'll be for just porch and yard
Just
sales?
the
so you
Porching
want to
Yard
do
Sale.
this?
That's the only recommendation that we're making this morning.
All right.
So I will withdraw my motion, or I'm sorry, I will withdraw my second, I believe, because I seconded it to approve. Oh, I'm sorry, be seconded to close. I'm sorry. I thought we went backwards.
Yeah.
I think I'll call the question.
You just confusing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right, Debbie's opposed. Motion carries. And all right, that concludes the action items. Now we're down to the strategic planning goals update. We've gone 2.5 hours, so I'm going to skip these again, and we're going to go to board comments.
Board comments. Leonard?
I'm sorry, you have a presentation you want to do?
Very brief.
Okay. All right, board comments then.
I'm tired.
Me too. That's why I'm trying to get forward with this. Leonard, were you going to say something?
No, I will.
David, you're up.
Yeah, just very brief. We did the community survey. Had 3 topic areas: amenities, community organizations, and general open-ended comments. Just real quickly, we had great response rate, 1,003, which is more than last time. If you just look at this compared with May's, it's virtually the same. Virtually the same response rates. Open surveys. I'm not going to go into too many details. There's a 6-page summary that will be posted on the website and probably in the October Celebration News. November, I meant. Thank you. Submitted in October. So I'm not going to go through the details, but I just want to do a highlight. And I believe that the same slideshow will be posted, so I'm not going to belabor it. Okay? Amenities. So this is simply in priority order. This is on a scale of 0 to 5. How important is this for you to have this in celebration? And number 1 and 2, security cameras, which we've now been advised not to use the term, but I'm repeating what we had in the survey prior to our advice. Resident-only events, and then all the way down to the amphitheater. So we had these items listed, and this is how they came out. Then if you want to know how people responded on each of those 6 elements, from not at all interested or not at all important to extremely important, here's how they responded. The green being extremely important and the blue at the very bottom being not at all important. I know this is a lot of information, so you can go look at this on the website afterwards. But let me just frame it differently. This is the same data, but I made it a little simpler. So I put the 2 very important together, the middle 2 together, the bottom 2 together. Okay? And so this shows that 66% of our people say that security cameras are very important to us, followed by resident-only events, screen technology, and so forth. Does this all make sense? Mm-hmm. So again, I don't want to go too belabored it. The amphitheater improvements in Artisan Park, electronic signboards, and so forth.
Okay, so one thing, just like splash pads, a lot of these things affect everybody. So
absolutely.
Splash pad, so I think sometimes, splash pad might be low, but, I'm not interested. I don't have a kid. I don't do splash pads, but so you
Adult
gotta
splash pad. We didn't say can or no.
Well, I'm just saying is that sometimes, you probably, with surveys, but just sometimes you have to look at it and say, well, are there other circumstances that make it low?
So a comment is just because it's low, or just because, as you'll see in the open-ended comments, just because one person said it, it doesn't negate it. It just becomes fodder for, it gives us data.
Right, gives us data, right.
Doesn't mean eliminate what's at the bottom. And then we had all these open-ended comments. So on that one question, we said, on any of those 10 items or anything else, do you have something you'd like to say? And so this is the responses on the first half. And of course, we have all the written responses, but this is how they code it out. And I know I'm speeding because it's late.
That's good stuff.
All right, but it's rich for us.
Well, I was waiting for you to get through the rest. I just have two quick things to go and finish.
Yeah. So again, now we said, how well do you understand these dozen community organizations? And again, this is in priority. They understand Sheriff's Office more, and at the bottom is CJC. Not a whole lot of surprise here. CROA was...
I'm on the committee. I don't
Yeah, I'm on that.
Oh, well, there you have it. And again, oops, I'm sorry, the same sort of cluster, except I did not collapse anything because there were only 5 choices here. Okay. Okay. And then the question we asked is, how might we help you better understand what these different organizations do? CROA doesn't do it all. CANOA doesn't do it. So forth. So again, different ways. This is how we slice the data. Debbie and I...
Number one is what I've been screaming about for years.
Written material, yeah.
About having a packet for new residents rather than a flash drive.
So there's all sorts of creative ideas, which is very exciting. Again, these are just bullets in here. And then the last question was about general comments. We had 424 respondents, but some respondents would say, I want this, and I want this, and I think this, so I had to divide them. That's why you see 487 responses, okay? And then the responses make up this listing. Facilities, communication, these are not in any particular order.
Still a lot of concern about the downtown area.
Now, the downtown is here. If you look at what's listed as roads, parking, safety, security, noise, and downtown, that cluster right there is about 1/3 of our responses that are not in CROA's area of responsibility. Okay? So that's what it was. And then if you look at our demographics or where people responded from, same as last time. Same as last time.
Go South Village, yeah.
So that's all. That's all I had. Happy to take questions.
Dave, I want one question.
Absolutely.
Can you send us a copy of the PowerPoint?
I sent it. I did already.
You sent it out this afternoon.
Sent it this afternoon.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah,
you got it.
Noon or 1, and I think it's going to be posted correctly, JR, or yeah, right now this is a draft. If there's something that needs to be corrected, then we'll post it once it's finalized.
David, I have a couple comments on
and then the 6-page report.
I have a couple comments on that. The respondent demographics there, if you take any of the numbers, Celebration Village, 19.5. And that is the percentage of all and that's the percentage of all respondents. That's not the percentage of Celebration Village residents. You didn't take the number of households in there.
I don't have a clue. I don't have that.
Okay, we can do it that way also, but
we could.
I just wanted to see how that would compare actually.
I don't know if Steve or Susan has that.
We have that apartments. They do. They have the number of
It's just I don't know if we know how many people in that village got the email though, based on whether they've given us their email address.
Right.
But
That complicates it a little bit.
You can assume you have equal just for initial assumption. The second part of that was in the PowerPoint presentation you sent out, I did not see the actual questions you asked as you asked them on the survey.
Right here.
That's included in them.
There it is. Right in the first thing. Celebrate. I did the wording right there in the yellow at the top.
Is it? Oh.
That's the wording from the survey.
Okay. And then that's it for each one? I'm sorry?
Not for the following slide, but for the first slide of the...
You asked 3 different questions.
3 different clusters. There's a question.
So you have it for each one. I'm sorry, I missed that. You know I read it because I sent you a note on it earlier.
The follow-on was what might help enhance the services received.
We'll put a Q in front of it next time. That's a good suggestion.
No, I missed it because I said, and you put percentages down across that bottom one. It was the amenities, the very first amenities slide. The
percentages
before?
Yeah, on the bottom. Yeah, the one back down, one from there.
Say percentage, but
Down from one more down. Nope. It's the straight. I'm trying to think. Graph like that across your bottom. You don't have percents. You don't have the bottom graph labeled on the first one. That was the note I sent you earlier.
Okay.
Anyway,
I can talk to you about that in just a moment.
Thank you. Now we need to sit down and analyze this stuff.
Say that?
We need to sit down and analyze this.
And one additional,
How we're going to respond to it.
I have one additional comment on that. Not that it affects what came back on the survey, but as all surveys go, whenever you have a particular incident that's being talked about a lot, and it shows up on a survey, it shows up at a higher rate than it might 6 months later.
Yes.
And I'm not going to mention any parts. I just wanted to make that one singular delineation, and I am motion to adjourn. Is that where we are?
I got a board comment. I got 3 comments real quick. Just a reminder, tomorrow's board Good Neighbor Day. Let's try and get out there. Everybody's 3 to 6. We glossed over the strategic planning goals for several months now. I'm going to ask each one of you to lead on that, to respond back to me with what you've done. Okay, so we can compile that and get an idea where we're at on these. And then thirdly...
Is that for 2018?
Yeah, these goals here. Where you,
oh, that's for 2018.
All right, and then last month, Mike Valquette from the ARC asked a representative for CROA to be a liaison. What I like to do is get a list of dates that they're going to meet, and we'll just have volunteers.
Who from where?
ARC. No, ARC.
See, I thought we had a board liaison for everything.
We don't.
No, we don't.
We
used to, we don't.
I'll do Park and Rec and special events.
For the Recreation Committee, you do have board liaisons that were appointed through strategic plans. So you have those assigned for those positions.
Okay.
I think I'm on that.
I think
it's ARC and Covenant at this time.
On that.
The ARC problem was they're meeting the same time we meet, at least one of the times. Each month, because sometimes I go in there afterwards, after one of our meetings.
All right, well, look,
can't tell you what day it is.
I'll get the days from Steve, and I just we should all share on this one. Everybody rotate through there once a month or once every 7 months to fill an ARC
You
position.
can all send us, because I've forgotten now when the Covenants Committee meets. But,
yeah. Okay.
Oh, the Covenants.
I'm done.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Don't need a second.